Welcome to the No Hydroponics. So, a lot of people are joining us. Most of the people are joining us from India. We'll talk about like what is hydroponics, and we'll understand about the small bits and pieces of the hydroponic today. I think we are very good to start. A lot of people have already joined. A lot of people are still joining us. So let's start with understanding of what today we're gonna talk. We're gonna talk about hydroponics today. A lot of people know about the hydroponics. You might have heard about it or researched about it. You might have an initial interest about the hydroponics. Today we'll deep dive into the hydroponics topic. We'll understand about what is hydroponics, why hydroponics, like a lot of other things and how hydroponics is changing the modern agriculture today. So let's start now. So I welcome you all. So today's agenda is we'll talk about what hydroponics, why hydroponics. So we'll talk about detailing about the hydroponics. But before that, I want you to know about me. So my name is Sudhir Devkar. I studied computer engineering in Bangalore. 3 years back, I took a very rational decision in my life. Okay, I want to contribute into the modern agriculture, and I decided to work into agriculture spectrum or something. So I belong to the agriculture family. I belong to the farmers family. We had a long understanding of agriculture, and when I told my family that I want to go into agriculture, response was not that great. So and I started doing research about what are the issues we are facing as economy and as a community. What are the issues we are facing? So the main staggering issue which I found was we are already 7.7 billion people, and in next 30 years we are expected to grow 9 billion people as a world. And the worst part of this population is we have to keep on feeding them 3 times a day, and continuously we have to keep on feeding them. And we cannot feed them rubbish. We have to keep on feeding them nutritious food. We have to keep on feeding them good quality food. So that is a very big issue. And the current situation of agriculture in India or around the world is we are limited with the land, we are limited with the water resources, we are limited with the labors, and all on top of that, climate change is not theory anymore, it's reality. Now we are started facing climate change. We are sometimes in India you can see there is a drought zone, and sometimes there is a heavy rainfall. So climate dependency is actually kind of killing agriculture in bits and pieces slowly. It's taking away the main part of agriculture, like sustainability. So the traditional agriculture is not becoming sustainable anymore. So then I started doing research about what kind of a contribution big universities and big companies are doing in the agriculture. So I was very much impressed with the Netherlands. I was impressed with some countries which are doing very good job into the agriculture. And what I found is there is an upcoming trend. The trend is people are going vertical farming. So why vertical farming? I started doing research on that. So vertical farming gives us a lot of pros over the traditional farming. We can have a multifold productions because of the matrix production we have because we can go vertical. Apart from that, we can save land, we can save water, we can save labor cost. There is a lot of benefits of this. So in vertical farming, again I started doing research. In vertical farming, there are a lot of options available. There is aquaponics, there is hydroponics, then there is a multiple aeroponics is there. There is a lot of things. Then I started working about the commercial profit of this. So we can do aquaponics, we can do different kind of agriculture, but it will be a science fair project. It won't be commercially profitable enough to pursue it as a career or pursue it as a business. So the hydroponics, it took my attention. So 3 years back, I started doing research on the hydroponics, why hydroponics and how it's gonna change the upcoming future of modern agriculture in India. So I got some facts which were staggeringly mind-boggling facts about the hydroponics. Then I started meeting people who are actually working into the hydroponics. 3 years back, the landscape was not that green enough. There was very limited people working into the hydroponic spectrum. I met few people from Bangalore, I met few people from Hyderabad, I met few people from Pune. I met different people from different cities. But what exactly I found was everyone's trying to pitch their turnkey solution. So the issue with turnkey solution is the initial investment cost is too high. It makes your ROI to get the ROI we have to wait for 6-7 years. That was a very big issue with hydroponics 3 years back. And that was not possible for me, because if I'm quitting my current job which is paying me good amount of money, and I'm going into the agriculture business, and again I have to wait for 6 to 7 years to become profitable after investing lakhs of rupees, that is not the life equation I want to fall into. So being practically business point of view, that was not life equation I want to go into. Okay, I have an interest about the hydroponics, but If interest is not paying me good enough, then what point of interest I have? It's a hobby project. I can run a hobby project in my balcony. I don't have to pursue it as a commercial. So then I started doing research about like what exactly is turnkey solutions. And I was doing my research on hydroponics simultaneously. I was attending multiple classes. I was talking multiple peoples. I took one-on-one consultation from different peoples. I was like, I invested a lot of money into just research phase. No, just going to the different city, staying on the farm for 1 or 2 days, understanding their working mechanisms, meeting people, having courses, classes. I was spending money on this, but nothing concrete was coming into my hand. There was nothing like, okay, this is something I want to pursue this. I was not on that verge. So, 2.5 years back, I took a very irrational decision in my life. I thought, okay, now I know most of the things about the hydroponic. How does it work? The basic phenomenon and the basic, I'll say the basic methodology of a hydroponic. How does it work? Let's build our own farm. Let's build our own project. Let's defy the turnkey solutions, whatever they have. Like they're telling me a lot of equipment, lot of things like fertilizer diffuser and this, that. I said, okay, let's dump everything. Let's start from the scratch. Let's minimize the cost. The costing for 5,000 square feet land, I was planning to do a 5,000 square feet trial project. You can visit us we are located at Satara. So the thing with the 5,000 square feet land was, I was very much sure about that this is gonna be failed. So we called it -1. We named it as a P-1 because the thing is, turnkey solution provider, they told me a lot of things about, okay, these are the basic things you need. You cannot succeed without this and that. So a lot of things were, they're constantly bugging my mind. So this was the system. P-1, 5,000 square feet land, the hydroponic project which I was going to build, I built it to failure. I built it for the failure. And I wanted to do the basic research, like how cheap we can go with this. The idea behind the setting up this project was, if I can set up the project of hydroponic, which costs less than a tractor cost, then only it becomes feasible for the farmer. Then only it becomes feasible for any person who wants to jump into the hydroponic business. So that was the whole idea. So we started doing paperwork. We started understanding about small things. So we cut a lot of crap into this. For example, the PVC pipes. We directly approached manufacturers for that. So we decided to, okay, how much cost minimization we can do. So we did a lot of a cost minimization. I couldn't finish the project into 10 lakhs. I finished the project into 12,50,000. So that was a very big achievement for us. 5,000 square feet project in 12,50,000. That was mind blowing. Undercut. Companies was pitching me like 45 lakhs or 50 lakhs. Some companies also quoted me 75 lakhs. And we finished the project into 12.5 lakhs. So once we finished the project, we took around 1.5 months to finish the project. I recorded each and everything, like what are the things I'm doing, what mistakes I'm doing, how to avoid that. It's not that I didn't need a mistake. I did a lot of mistake. I was doing this first time. That was one issue. Second issue was I was not able to get what things we required to run a hydroponic project. So we did a lot of frugal work. We did a lot of small tweaks into the system just so it should work perfectly, but same time it should not be costlier. So we did a lot of tweaks and that. After that, when the production time came. So when production time came, we failed into the first production. I'm very much upfront about this. We failed into first production. We made a lot of mistakes when it comes to fertigation. We made a lot of mistakes into the understanding basic autonomy of the plants. So all these mistakes were actually, I was thinking, okay, is there any build-up failure or it is an operational failure? After retrospective, I understand, okay, this is an operational failure. Whatever failures we are having right now, these are the operational failures. Then we started building software around that. Okay, how we can minimize these operational failures and how we can be the predictable series of events which can be conducted properly, so we don't lose on harvest or crop again. So we started working on that. We built our own farm management software. So after building a farm management software, what we realized is running a hydroponic farm is much more smoother when you go frugal way than when you go the most scientific way. The first crop was a complete failure. We understood a lot of things. The second crop failure was like good time success. We did a very good production. We got a very good harvest, and we started to sell into the market. So when we started selling into the market, we faced a second biggest issue. So people are not ready to pay me the premium because I'm going hydrophonically. That was the one big issue. Second biggest issue I was facing is the Indian market is so unpredictable. We cannot decide or we cannot judge what the future market is gonna be. So again, that was a very big issue. How to tackle that? So then we started meeting a lot of vendors. We met vendors from Mumbai, we met vendors from Pune, we met vendors from Bangalore, we met vendors from Chennai, Hyderabad. Again, the journey of meeting a lot of people for different solutions started. Then when I started meeting the vendors, the same issue was faced by the vendor as well. The vendors are like for leafy greens and this market, the vendors are not very big players. They are like very small players into the big economy. So they said, okay, the market is not certain, we know that, but again, how to tackle with that? So whatever you are selling it to us, we'll mark up on that like 10% or 15%, and then we'll sell it to the consumer. That was their methodology of business. So then we started doing, okay, we gave them a free software where they can use it to track their daily, how much produce they are selling, how much produce they're acquiring from the market or getting from the farmers, how much markups they are doing. We started giving them a free software to use. So the free software was giving them a very good job. Same time, in backend, it started giving me the data like what is a different market pricing for different days on different APMC markets or different vendors. If it's open market or APMC market, we started collecting that data. So now after 1.5 years, we collected so much of data. Now we can predict the future pricing. So we started using artificial intelligence and machine learning to understand what is the future pricing of this particular commodity will be. So now once we started getting data for like 1 month or sometimes 2 months, now we are into the much favorable hand. Okay, now we can take pre-decision that okay, after 2 months, this vegetable is gonna give me the most of the profit. Then we started planting that. So that's how the entire journey of building a successful farm started. We did a very good job, in understanding market segments, in understanding the farm management, in building up a cheap hydroponic system. So proudly we can say we have built a hydroponic system which is 70% cheaper than what market is offering. Right now, when we started, that was like 80 to 85% cheaper. A lot of people has done a lot of costing changes. So still we are 65 to 70% cheaper than what market is offering. So now after running the business for more than 2.5 years, so the big issue we started facing is a lot of people started visiting us from different part of India. Sometimes we have people from Chennai, sometimes we have people from Srinagar, sometimes from Kolkata, from Pune, from Bangalore, Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam, Tiruvananthapuram. A lot of people started coming from a lot of different places, and everyone was interested to hydroponic. And some of people, they burned their hand while doing hydroponic project on a small scale or something. They were missing the key component into hydroponic: how to build it cheaply, how to sell at a higher price, and how to manage the farm. That was the 3 biggest issue people are facing. Then we decided, okay, whatever information we have collected on the way, like in last 2.5 years, whatever information we have collected, let's make it available to the people. Let's give it to them how they can build their own farm without any help of a consultant. How to use a farm management software. We made a farm management software absolutely free. We give a price voucher where they can predict the future price of the commodities, and they can build upon that. They can understand, okay, this is the commodities I want to trade into future. This is the production I want to do it today. So after 1 month or 2 months, when I'm selling my harvest, it will be the most profitable commodity for me. So we made that available for everyone. We made that free. So on top of that, when we started giving all this information to people, still there was one missing connection was there. Now every communication between the people was one-to-one. Like when they have any issue, they used to communicate to me. Whenever I want to tell them something, I have to communicate to each and everyone personally. That was the issue. Then we decided, okay, let's take a next step forward. We have a lot of people who are interested in hydroponic. Let's build a community around that. So we started designing the community part. We started designing forum where people can ask any question, whatever question they have. It might be very small question like, okay, how many times do you have to water the plant? Or it can be very big issue like, okay, how to use dehumidifier, which company's dehumidifier I should pick. Let's say I am into Himachal Pradesh. I have a very humid, I have very humid environment there. I need a dehumidifier. How to pick the dehumidifier? So that kind of a question. Let it be a small question or a very big question. We decided to build a forum around that. We decided to build, Facebook community around that. So people can communicate with each other. Same time people can communicate with us, or sometimes we can communicate with the people. So we started building this community where it's not only the course, or it's not only the hydroponic business, or it's not only the model of a commercial successful business, or it's not the only model of a modern agriculture. We started developing the community around it. So today what we're gonna see is how the hydroponic is much more beneficial for you. If you're really thinking about hydroponic, you want to pursue it as a career, or you want to build a business around hydroponics, how you can come into the hydroponic ecosystem, how you can benefit yourself, how you can take advice from the different people. There are a lot of people from your region, from your location, they're already into the community. We have more than 17,000 people community strong. So definitely someone from the next lane or someone from your exact pin code or someone from your location is already part of a hydroponic community. There is a very high chances of that. So how you can talk with them, how you can communicate with them, how you can understand, okay, if you want to contribute into the hydroponic community, what are the steps you have to follow? If you want to jump into the hydroponic business, what are the steps you have to follow? You can talk about that, you can understand about that into details. So let's start. Let's not waste any time. I think today's sessions we're going to keep it short and sweet. We'll try to keep it short and sweet. Hydroponic is a little vast subject when you go into details, but we'll try to finish it and cover it as much topics as possible. So today's agenda, what we have is, first is what is hydroponic. We'll talk about what is hydroponic, why exactly hydroponics. Like a lot of people, for example, from when I was a kid, when I was in like 3rd or 4th standard, my mother gave me the money plant. I used to keep my money plant in the plastic bottle. And I used to wait, okay, this will grow slowly. The whole idea was the way money plant grows will become rich. The money will start flowing in. So that's the first time when I was in 3rd standard, first time I was introduced to the hydroponic. Although I didn't knew about that, it's a hydroponic, plants are growing on the water. Although I didn't knew about this, but it was a form of a hydroponic. So hydroponic is not a pretty new technology. Hydroponic is a pretty old technology. The first time hydroponics was introduced by the Greece, it was in 18th century. So it is a very, very, very old technology. It's a proven science. This is not something we are reinventing the wheel. We are not doing something like extraordinary and like something is not done. We're not doing something like that. This is a pretty old technology. This is like rinse and repeated, overly used. This is a very old and completely proven technology. We are not doing something new, but a lot of people they are not aware of what they are doing is a hydroponic or not. So we'll talk about that. What is hydroponic? We'll talk about why do we need hydroponics. So now slowly we are becoming consumer economy. In consumer economy, the best part is in consumer economy, people are ready to pay money to get a good quality of service. And traditional agriculture is not able to supply good quality of services. For example, when we talk to the restaurants, the biggest issue restaurant face today is they're not getting constant quality of ingredients to produce a constant quality of, like say, pizza. If particular restaurants, they're mastered into the pizza, but they want a constant quality of a basil all year around. If you're not getting the constant quality of basil, their pizza taste won't be consistent. The restaurant person cannot say to the customer, okay, in January my pizza tastes different, in March it's a little bit different, in December it is a little bit different, in March I don't sell pizza because the basic leafy greens are not available. They cannot run their business on that. So the basic restaurant business or any hotel, if you go to any 5-star hotel or 3-star hotel or any continental business, so what they look for is they want consistent supply. So hydroponic provides a consistent supply. That's why the hydroponic is slowly picking up the market. They are taking the speed because in consumer economy, people are ready to spend a lot of money towards luxurious items like continental food. So that economy is being developed slowly. So we'll talk about why do we need hydroponics. We'll talk about types of hydroponics. There are different types of hydroponics. There are some types which are like purely hobby-based types, like the money plant. And there are types which are like purely commercial hydroponic types, like NFT plant. So we'll talk about types of the hydroponics. The next thing what we'll talk about, hydroponics over traditional farming. Like what exactly issues we face. We are doing traditional farming from like a lot of decades, I'll say, from my father, his grandfather and his grandfather. We are doing traditional agriculture. So what are the issues we faced into traditional agriculture? Why we are not becoming profitable? Why in first phase I had to choose a different career than agriculture? Why I had to become a computer engineer for that? So there are a lot of flaws into the traditional agriculture system. Hydroponic is removing that flaws and then it's making it more profitable. We'll talk about that, why hydroponic is more profitable than traditional farming. We'll talk about plants which can be, there are different kind of plants which we can grow into hydroponics. Ultimately, what I have found out is any plant which grows up to 3.5 feet in height, it can be grown into hydroponics successfully without doing much of a science, without you doing a lot of experiments with it. If any particular plant grows 3 feet in height, we can grow it into the hydroponic. From commercial point of view, that I have understood. It's not that we cannot grow larger plant into hydroponics. Yes, we can grow larger plants into hydroponics, but it doesn't become commercially viable after a point. So let's talk about inert media. We'll talk about inert media after that. There are different kind of inert media. There is a ossis cube, then there is a hydroton balls, then there is a cocoa pit, then there is a perlite. It's a very confusing part where people don't understand what kind of a inert media they should use. We'll talk about that inert media, like when it makes a commercial sense of which inert media we should use, and when we go to the little bit on a we incline little bit to the science. Okay, this inert media gives me this advantage, so I should pick this inert media. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about seedlings. Lot of people, they fail into first phase of a hydroponic at the seedling phase. They don't. The first thing in a seedling is the nutrients which we give to the seedlings. It's not the nutrients which are for the plants or for the hydroponics. The nutrient cycle of a seedlings is totally different. The climatic condition which is required to grow seedlings is completely different. A lot of losses happens into the seedling. If you say if I'm planting 100 plants, so more than 20% plants will die into the seedling phase. So that's a most filtration process we have into the seedling phase. So we'll talk about seedling phase, like what exactly seedlings, like how to prepare seedlings from seeds, like what are the nutrient solutions we need to give them. We'll talk about nutrients for seedlings. We'll understand like core autonomy of the seedlings. We'll talk about that. After that, the most important part, water. Water, H2O, we know that H2O is the water, and agriculture uses water. More than 70% fresh water is used for the agriculture. There is a basic reason why we use water for the agriculture. Water can take any kind of a fertilizer or chemicals into it. It can dissolve properly and then make it available to the root plants. We'll talk it how water does that. Like why water is a core part of agriculture. We'll talk about water. Then we'll talk about pH of water. There is a potential hydrophonic. Why do we have to maintain the pH? Then we'll talk about EC, what is the electric conductivity of water. Whenever we mix any fertilizer or any salt into the water, the EC shoots up, the ppm shoots up. Why exactly does that happen? We'll talk about that. How to control the EC or ppm. We'll talk about that. Then after that, the more crucial part is a nutrient solution. So now we have started growing plants. We know about the water, we know about the seedlings. Our plants goes into the hydroponic system. Now we have to provide the nutrient solutions to them. We have to provide them macronutrients like potassium. We have to provide them micronutrients like very small nutrients like copper, molybdenum. We have to give them different nutrients. We have to give NPK. We have to give like molybdenum. We have to give them zinc. We have to give them ferrous. And sometimes the ratio is different for different setups. We'll talk about that. How to prepare the nutrient solution for the plants. Then comes the irrigation water. So to form the nutrient solutions, we build a irrigation water. This irrigation water is the basic water which we use to grow plants. We'll talk about the irrigation water, how nutrient solutions and the irrigation water is related with each other. We'll talk about that. Then comes the most important part, the commercial viability of a hydroponic system. How to make it commercially viable. Just building a hydroponic system is a science project. Taking production is a hobby. No, having good quality of leafy greens or basil or lettuce or arugula, it's kind of an art. But selling it to the market and getting money against that's a commercial viability. We'll talk about the commercial viability of the part. You are growing very good quality of a crop, but if you're not generating enough revenue from that, then what's the point of it? You cannot eat it every day at your home, right? You have to sell it to the market. You have to get money against that. So we'll talk about the commercial viability of it. Then we'll talk about the sales channel. There are different kind of a sales channel in Indian economy. We have a B2B, we have B2B2C, then we have a B2C. In B2B directly you sell it to the business. In B2B2C you sell it to the business. Then those businesses sell your produce to the customers. Then you sell directly to the customers. There are different sales channels. We'll talk about that B2B, B2B2C and B2C. After that, what we'll talk about is, this is the basic course which you have completed. Then we'll talk about the advancements, what you can do. We'll talk about the farm management software. We'll talk about the price watchers. We'll talk about how you can visit us, how you can visit the farm. We can talk about that. We'll talk about these different segments, how they stitch up together and to build entire hydroponic ecosystem for you. So let's dive into the basic concept of hydroponics. We'll start with what is hydroponic. So when we talk about hydroponics, the core hydroponic is like hydro is water, ponics is work. When you put your water to the work, that is known as a hydroponic. So pretty simple, right? So when scientists first time started doing research about the hydroponics, what they found is, if you are providing all nutrient solutions to the water to the roots, and if you are providing net cups or any inert media which can hold the plants at the proper place, we don't need soil at all. That was a discovery which was maybe done at long back at the ancient time. The discovery was done, but the actual scientific usage started like in the last few decades when people started doing it commercially. So that's why hydroponics came into the limelight. So a lot of companies started working into the hydroponics mainly due to reasons like, okay, now we are not dependent on the land. Land is a very big issue for certain countries. Like if the countries, they have like lot of let's say icing, the lot of ice, cold region, and some countries they have like deserts. For them, the land was a very crucial issue. Even some countries, like if there is a constant flood zone, the land was a very big issue. So this country started promoting hydroponics for their core competency with the food production. So they started promoting hydroponics. That's how slowly few decades back hydroponics started taking speed into the economy. So that's how we got introduced to the hydroponic. So the basic concept of hydroponic is we are not using any kind of a soil. We are using just water to nutrient supply, for the nutrient supply, and we are using inert media and net cups to support the plants to grow properly. So that was the whole idea about the hydroponics. Okay, let's talk about why do we need a hydroponics. Like a lot of people think there are like a lot of forests are there, a lot of grassland is there, there is just so much of land is there. Why do we even need hydroponics? So we don't need hydroponics only for one reason, only for the land. We need hydroponics for the multiple reasons. On your screen you can see there is like climate, labor, land, water, fertilizer and consistency. Let's dive into each and one of them and we understand like why do we need hydroponics. The main crucial part, why do we need hydroponics, is the climate. The climate condition across the world is changing very rapidly. As we say, the climate threat is not theory anymore, it's real. A lot of things are happening in the climate change. In India, particularly a lot of regions, they have like long drought regions. Sometimes there is a heavy rainfall. The location where I stay, that's a Satara location. The issue with our location is, in a rainy season, there is a lot of rainfall. And as soon as we start going towards the summer, then there is no water. The water level is depleting like anything. So the climate is not favorable to the agriculture anymore. We are facing that issue with a lot of different crops. Hydroponics protects us from this climate dependency. When we build polyhouse system and we build hydroponics into the polyhouse system, we actually becomes immune to the climatic changes. Next thing is the labor availability. So when we do the traditional agriculture, we need a lot of laborers for different jobs. Even it's smallest jobs like weeding, or it's a very difficult jobs like a puller or a tractor or different kind of a jobs in a labor intensive job like a harvest or something. We need a lot of labor when we do traditional agriculture. So in hydroponic, we need a single labor. The job of this labor is putting plants into the pipes, and the second job is doing the harvest. So the complete dependency is on the not labor intensity, based on the automation. So the single labor, he has to do only two jobs. First, planting the seeds, and second job is harvesting. And this job is like pretty much very much easier job. So you are not dependent on a single labor. The labor become very much switchable person. You can switch labor, you can anytime. It becomes replaceable. That's the beauty of a hydroponics. You are not dependent on the particular skill set of a particular person. It becomes unskilled job. It becomes unskilled labor job. So that's the beauty of a hydroponics. Third important thing is land. So we don't have to use a large amount of land to grow same amount of crops. In hydroponics, in the 5,000 square feet, we are having more than 13,000 head production. In 13,000 head production, if you want to do that on a traditional agriculture method, we have to use more than 1 acre land. That is more than 45,000 square feet of land. We are able to jam pack all that production into 5,000 square feet. So the land dependency is very less. So for example, when I say I have invested 12 lakh rupees to build a hydroponic farm, and I'm taking 13,000 head production, and when I talk about the traditional agriculture, so to buy 1 acre land, I have to invest much more money than the setup cost which I have already done. So that's how the hydroponic business becomes very much sustainable for me when it comes to the term of land. Cost of land is like staggering high, and it's increasing every day. So now using a smaller amount of land, I can grow multiple crops at the faster pace. So that's a land advantage I get in the hydroponics. Now let's talk about the consistency. The whole business point, the whole business ideology of a hydroponic revolves around the consistency. The big companies are approaching us like Big Basket, or the big supermarkets like More Supermarket, or the hotel chains are approaching us only because of one thing. We have a consistency. We can produce the consistent supply of vegetables at any time of a year. Doesn't matter it's a summer, doesn't matter it's a raining, doesn't matter it's a winter. We can give them constant supply at the same quality and the same quantity. That's a consistency big businesses look for. The agriculture business face only one issue, that's a consistency. It's not consistent enough. When we come to the hydroponic, that's a consistency. That's a one big issue we solved. Consistency is the biggest issue the hydroponic solves for the agriculture. That's a consistency. Let's talk about the fertilizer. In hydroponic, we need a very less fertilizer. We have noticed that we need 6 times less fertilizer in hydroponic system than traditional farming. So when we talk about fertilizers, we are not saving only on the cost of the fertilizer. We are saving on multiple things. We are saving on the carbon footprint of the fertilizer. We are saving on the water runoff, the pollution of the fertilizer. We are saving on a lot of things into the fertilizer. So fertilizer benefits, the ultimate benefit we get into the hydroponic. And then there is a water. If you have seen the water depleting zones or the drought zones, you'll understand how important water is for the agriculture. In hydroponic, we save 90% of the water. In traditional farming, what we notice is we need 3 lakhs liter of water for the single crop production. In hydroponic, we are doing the same job with 12,000 liters water. So the beauty with 12,000 liter water is, even if I'm building my setup into zones like deserted zones, for example Rajasthan, or Kutch, I can give the 12,000 liter water using tankers. In traditional agriculture, that's not possible. I cannot grow my crops with the tanker water. In hydroponics, we can do that. So immediately this hydroponic business becomes sustainable at any region. It can be done into any zone. It becomes replicable. It can replicate into any zone, any region, without being dependent on the water. So water scarcity is not the biggest issue anymore for the agriculture. So that's the biggest issue hydroponics solves for us. So that's why we decided to jump into hydroponics, and that is the modern agriculture needs. It's less labor intensive, it's climatically proof, less number of land, it's consistent supply, we need less number of fertilizers, so there is no ecological downsides of it, we need less amount of water. So that's what driving hydroponics for the modern agriculture technology into the Indian spectrum. There are different types of hydroponics. Some types of hydroponics are commercially successful, and some types of hydroponics are like a hobby project. So when we say about the types of hydroponics, there are basically 6 types of hydroponics. There is a wick method, then there is a water culture. So all the method, there are different kind of methods which are available in the market. There are like makeshift strategies of these basic types of hydroponics. When we say about Dutch bucket system, it's kind of a wick method, which is like a better version of a potting. So wick method has transformed into the Dutch bucket method. Then there is a water culture, a deep water culture is also known as. Then there is a EBB and flow. EBB and flow is also known as flood and drain, F&D systems. Then there is a drip system. Drip system comes into the 2 parts. It's a recovery drip system. When we recover whatever water or nutrient solution we have used for the drip mechanisms. And then there is a non-recovery when we let the runoff of excess water. Then there is a Nfp system. Nfp system is the method which we have used to build our farm. It's a nutrient film technique. It's also known as a nutrient film technique or the NFT system. Then there is a aeroponics. So aeroponics is used when we are less worried about the commercial benefit and you are most worried about the quality of production. So generally aeroponics is used when you want to grow very high quality production, for example the seed development, then the aeroponic method is used. So these are the basic different types of hydroponic methods which are used. So let's dive into one of them. So let's dive into each of them one by one. So the first method is wick method. So every hydroponic wick system is made up of 4 basic components. As you can see on screen, there is a growing container, then there is a reservoir for the nutrient solution, there is a growing medium, and then there are wicks. So when we talk about growing containers, so growing containers contains inert media. We'll talk about the inert media in later video. Then there is a reservoir where we stock our nutrient solutions. So this is not the mother solution. This is not the tank A and tank B solution. This is the irrigation water nutrient solutions. We'll talk about the irrigation water nutrient solutions in future video. Then there is a growing medium. Growing medium is nothing but the inert media, whatever inert media we are using. We'll talk about the inert media. Then there are the wicks. So wicks actually take nutrient solutions from the reservoir and it makes it available to the growing medium. Then the growing medium makes that nutrient solution available to the plant's root. So we'll talk about the wick method in detail. So on your screen you can see the basic method of a wick system. So wick system is not commercially viable. Wick method is a very good method when you are doing like hobby project. For example, I told you when I was a kid, we did a money plant. So the money plant is nothing but the wick method system. We put a money plant into the small bottle and whatever nutrient requirement money plants are, they start taking from the nutrients, whatever nutrients or fertilizers it need from the water, it start consuming them from the bottle itself. So that's a basic wick method. At a small scale it can be done very efficiently, but as soon as you start going a large scale or a commercial scale, wick method starts becomes very much difficult to manage and becomes very much difficult to cope up with different kind of things like a climate environment changes or controlling climatic conditions or managing labor. It becomes very much difficult. So that's why wick method is out when we are talking about the commercial hydroponic. As a hobby hydroponic, you can pursue wick method or a Dutch bucket method, but when we talk about the commercial success of hydroponic, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Now the next method is water culture. This is also known as a deep water culture or DWC, as you have seen on the different parts of hydroponic. So in water culture what exactly happens is there is a big container. In big container there is a nutrient solution. On top of that there is a raft. On the raft we plant our different seedlings which starts growing. They start taking shape into the plant and the roots are dipped into this nutrient solution. So whatever nutrients this plant need, they start taking it from the nutrient solutions or the reservoir, and that's how deep water culture makes a lot of sense for the commercial benefits. So in commercial benefit, you can see on the screen, you might have seen this design, or you can seen this farm at different videos on the YouTube or Facebook or different kind of, whenever you do the Google search and you look for the deep water culture, you see this kind of photos or this kind of videos. So deep water culture makes sense when you're not you don't have a land. You don't have to compromise on the land part, or you don't have to compromise with the water plant. So it makes more sense to have a deep water culture farm development when land is not the very big issue or the water is not the very big issue. But yes, if you want to save big time on the land and water, then deep water culture does not make a lot of sense. In deep water culture, the again big issue is the nutrient solutions. After a time, the fertilizer starts depositing on the ground. So you have to keep on oxygenating the bubbling of water continuously. So it increases the operation cost as well. If you are living in the zone where the electricity is not the very big issue, first part, and second thing, the electricity is not that much costlier, then you can pursue the deep water culture. So the basic ideology, if you are not having a lot of issues with the land, if you don't have a lot of issues with the water, and you have not a lot of issues with the electric dependency or electricity, then you can pursue deep water culture. If you are facing this issue, then deep water culture is not for you. You have to pick something else. Now let's talk about EBB and flow. EBB and flow is also known as flood and drain or F&D system. So EBB and flow system works by temporarily flooding the growing tray with the nutrient solutions and then draining the solution back into the reservoir. This action is normally done with a submerged pump that is connected with a timer. So in periodically base, what we do is we flood the entire inert media tank, we flood it with the nutrient solutions. The growing medium or inert media which we are using, it starts absorbing the water, it starts retaining the water in them. So once the retention is done, we again drain all the nutrient solutions from the inert media. So whatever nutrient they have absorbed from the water, they make it available to the plant's root. So that is the basic ideology of EBB and flow. On your screen you can see the basic design of EBB and flow. Again with EBB and flow, the issues are same as a deep water culture. You have to continuously keep on flooding the system and draining the system. So electric dependency, if you have electric dependency, that's a very big issue. Land, again it's a very big issue because there is no land dependency. It's not land dependency. If you have a lot of land, you can go for the EBB and flow. And the third important method is this cannot grow vertically, so if you have a land issue, this is not the method for you. And again it saves a good time on labor and the water. So if you're looking for some method which is like you don't have issues with the water, you can go with the EBB and flow. The biggest issue with EBB and flow is it's commercially becomes very difficult to achieve ROI because it's a very much high capital intensive business. You have to invest a lot of capital at first place to build up EBB and flow systems. So if you are doing for the commercial purpose, EBB and flow is out of the gate. Now let's come to the next part, drip system. So in drip system, what exactly happens is the timer turns pump on and off and the nutrient solution is dripped on the base of each plant by small drip line. So in a recovery drip system, the excess nutrient solution which we have, whatever we call it runoff, is collected back into the reservoir for the reuse. In non-recovery system, we do not collect the runoff. So the basic ideology of a drip system works like if you know about the drip system which is used into the traditional agriculture, we use a drip line and at the base of a plant we constantly keep on giving the water by drop. That's a drip system. That is a hydroponic. That's a kind of hydroponics. So when people say hydroponics is totally new things, the hydroponic is already implemented into the traditional agriculture. We just call it a drip system with non-recovery method. So whatever is a excess water and excess nutrient we have given, it goes into the land and we cannot recover it back. So that's a drip system in short. So when you see winery plants, they basically use drip system. So on winery plants, you can see on your screen. So there is a small black kind of drippers. They keep on dropping drop by drop of water and nutrient solutions. And whatever is the excess water, it's again collected back with the pipes and again it is reused back. So in drip system, the biggest issue is maintaining the water. Maintaining pH of the water, maintaining EC of water become very much tedious after a time. So if you don't want to get into the complications of that, drip system is not for you. If you're going for the mega farm, like you are going with a 10 acre or a 20 acre of a land and you're going for the single crop production, then drip irrigation makes a lot of sense compared to the NFT or any other methods. But if you're not planning on that large scale, drip system does not make a lot of sense for you. Now let's go to the NFT, nutrient film technique. Nutrient film technique, what exactly happens is, we have a constant flow of a nutrient solution. So there is no timer required. We have a submerged pump which keeps on pushing the water into the pipes. The nutrient solution pumped into the growing tray or usually the tubes. It can be PVC or UPVC pipes. Whatever the flow of water we have, they have already a nutrient film on them, and these nutrients are available to the plants. It's available to the roots of plant where they can consume different kind of nutrients, like they can consume nitrogen, potassium, they can consume ferrous or molybdenum or zinc. Different kind of nutrients are available to the plant's root in the NFT system. We have developed NFT system for our farm because economically it makes a lot of sense. We can achieve vertical farming with that. It's less labor intensive. We have zero climatic dependency for NFT system. It uses less number of land. It uses less fertilizers. It uses less amount of water. So NFT makes a lot of sense for a lot of people if you're going like small scale commercial hydroponic system like 5,000 square feet or approximately you're going for the 1 acre land. So NFT makes a lot of sense when you're targeting this kind of a unit economics for your businesses. So on your screen you can see the basic design of a NFT system. The NFT system has two different methods. One is a flat bed NFT system and then there is a vertical A-frame NFT systems. We have used A-frame NFT systems because we wanted to save on a land, and second thing we wanted to go for the vertical production of the veggies. So if you don't have that constraint, that you don't have a land constraint and you want to go for the NFT method, you can go for the flatbed NFT method, or you can go with the A-frame or I-frame NFT methods. Now let's talk about the aeroponics. So aeroponics is not commercially that much successful if you are selling your vegetables or selling your plants for the revenue. It makes a lot of sense if you are doing the seed production or the unit economics is not the very much big concern for you, but the quality of production is a very crucial for you. Then the aeroponics makes a lot of sense. In aeroponic system, the growing medium is primarily air. So what happens is the plant's root are hanging into the air, and we keep on splashing or we keep on spraying the mist of the nutrient solutions on the plant's root. So whatever nutrients plant's root need, it takes it from that misting. It keeps on continuously taking this mist. They continuously keep on using this mist to grow to reach the maturity of a plant. So the issue with aeroponic system is it's highly depend on the electricity. If you have electricity failure for just say few hours of the day, the aeroponic system just fails off. Aeroponic system was used by NASA, where they used aeroponic system when they wanted to grow proper salad or proper vegetables for their scientists in the outer space. The aeroponic system was used by them. Apart from that, the big companies use aeroponic system when they want to produce high quality seeds. The aeroponic method is used because the quality in aeroponic system is a very great. I'll say it's more than 100% good quality we get on the aeroponic system. Commercially maybe it's not that viable because it takes a lot of inputs. It takes a lot of input costs. Setting up an aeroponic system is a very much costlier affair. When we talk about the Indian spectrum of economy, it's very much costlier affair to build a aeroponic system. On your screen you can see these are the aeroponic towers. In aeroponic towers, there is in the center there is a system where the water keeps on misting. The mist keeps on happening, and the mist keeps on going on the plant roots, and the plant roots keeps on taking nutrients from the aeroponic tower systems. So this is the basic idea of aeroponics. Okay, let's talk about hydroponics over traditional farming. So when we started working into the hydroponic farm, we actually wanted to get the clear picture about like, are we really doing something which is not possible with a traditional farming, or are we just doing a hobby project which is like little bit large scale and we're investing a lot of money. So what we did is, to understand this, we did some basic checkouts. We took some parameters into consideration. We considered basil plant and we decided, okay, let's do 50 kg production per day. And for to take a 50 kg production, how much vertical farming we have to do and how much traditional farming we have to do. So this was like a third cycle of a plant production. What we are doing is, so the basil plant production for 50 kgs on traditional farming and in a hydroponic farm. So these are some key differences, or the key differences what we found into traditional agriculture and the Kryzon hydroponic farm. On your screen you can see this is a particular in tabular format. You can see the Kryzon hydroponic farm and the traditional farm and the difference. So when we talk about traditional Kryzon hydroponic farm, we are talking about the hydroponic farm on the 5,000 square feet. In traditional farm, we are talking about the same amount of area which we need to take that same head plant production. So we are considering 13,667 head production into the Kryzon hydroponic farm. To do the same kind of a production, we required 1 acre of a traditional farm, which is 43,560 square feet. So let's start one by one. We'll go deep into one by one and we'll understand what are the pros and cons and what are the key differences we found along the process. So this project, this experiment was done for a period of 2 months. So we took 1 month and 2 months. So in the 2 months period, we decided, okay, what are the things we require and what are the issues we find with the traditional farming and hydroponic farming, and what are the key differences, what are the benefits we got from the hydroponic farm over the traditional farming. So first let's talk about the area. In a hydroponic farm we use a 5,000 square feet area. On traditional farm, to take the same production we needed 43,560 square feet, which is approximately 1 acre area. In the differences, we were using 8.7 times less area when we compared traditional agriculture and the hydroponic farm. Hydroponic farm was 8.7% less area intensive. Now let's talk about the water. To run hydroponic farm for entire 1 month, we needed 12,000 liter water. That's all. On top of that, we needed 2,000 liters of top-up water once. Apart from that, there was not a huge requirement of a water to run a hydroponic farm. In traditional farming, we needed more than 3 lakh liters of water for entire month. So we are saving 24% times water. The 24% times less water was required on a hydroponic farm. So what we understood here, the key difference is, to run a traditional farm, we are dependent on a well, or we depend on the bore well to run a farm. In a hydroponic farm, we are not dependent on the well or a bore well or any source of water as it is as a separate entity. Hydroponic farm can be done with the use of a tankers or normal water, the BMC water, the municipal water what we get. Running hydroponic farm was much more easier to run on that water. So on setting up hydroponic farm, we didn't require the external source of water. In traditional farming, we needed an external source of water, let it be a well or a bore well or any kind of. So we saved a lot of money on the creating the external water source. We saved money on that. On top of that, we saved money on the water. So exactly, water is directly proportional to the energy. How much water we need is directly proportional to the carbon footprint to use that water. So whenever we use electricity to pump that water, there is again ecological balance of getting that water from the natural resources. So we save lot of money and lot of energy, lot of resources on this area. So the actual in numerical format, it was 24 times less water requirement. So 24 times less resources was required when we went to hydroponic farming. Now the next key factor is a fertilizer. So we used 35 kilograms of a fertilizer, which approximately costed us 3,200 rupees for an entire month. I'm talking about the entire month. In a traditional agriculture farm, we used like 240 kgs of a fertilizer. This 240 kgs fertilizer which costed us 21,000 rupees. In that we get NPK 19, we get DAP, we get urea, we get different kind of fertilizers. In fertilizers, we also consider the pest control, the pesticides and the herbicides which we use for the traditional farming. Apart from that, in traditional farming, we had to use growth boosters like Thymer and all different kind of growth boosters were used for the traditional farming, to remove the yellowness on the plants or something. something. So the entire cost was 21,000 rupees just to run a traditional farm to take the same amount of production. We are talking about 50 kg production of a basil. So we actually saved 6.8 times less on the fertilizers when we decided to go with a hydroponic farm. So now let's go to the next part, where the worker. In worker space, when we went to traditional farming, we needed three full-time workers on the farm. One worker was dedicated for the harvesting, one worker was dedicated for weed management, taking care of the plants, and one worker was dedicated for the fertilizer, pesticide spraying, and all those parts. So we needed dedicated 3 workers to run a traditional farm, and here we needed only one worker to run the farm because his job was mainly to the harvest part. Once we created the seedlings, once we transported the seedlings from the from the tray to the Nfp systems, after that the only job of this worker is to keep on harvesting and keep on packing and sending it to the market. So the labor dependency was very less when we talk about the hydroponic farm. It was one third of a manpower cost, the entire manpower cost. So when we talk about manpower cost, it's a day-to-day cost which we acquire. So in the region where we stay, generally it costs 400 rupees per day for a worker. So we're saving 800 rupees every day. This 800 rupees is nothing but the profit which you're gonna get in the end when we sell our harvest. So we're saving 800 rupees per day on the worker part or a manpower cost. Now let's talk about the production. So what we understood from the hydroponic farm is whatever plant production we have, we can take it for entire year. We don't have to compromise on the quality or a quantity because it's not dependent on the climatic conditions. We went with the polyhouse. When we talk about the traditional farm, yes, the production, all year production was possible with the use of a polyhouse, but the cost was very high when we talk about for a small region. Let's say for 1 acre land for the polyhouse construction, it would have costed us more than like 25 to 30 lakh rupees to construct a polyhouse for that region. So we decided not to go with the polyhouse. We went for the open field production. So with the open field production, the issue is now we are very much limited for the seasonal cropping. We are able to sell our crops only in the winter season. In rainy season, we didn't have that much of production. In summer season, there was a lot of issues like pest control and production was not up to the mark. Quality was not up to the mark. We were not able to sell. Even if we could get the proper harvest, we were not getting the proper costing for that. So with the traditional farm, we are very much limited for the seasonal crops and we couldn't expand more than the seasonality. We should not go off season. In hydroponic farm, we can go the off season, we can go into the rain, we can go into the winter. So we conducted this experiment in the winter phase. So that gives us a little bit edge over comparing properly. But if you have done this comparison into the rainy season or summer season, this number would have changed drastically. Traditional farm wouldn't have contributed even close to the hydroponic farm, which we got results into the hydroponic farm. Now come to the next point, nutrient value. So when we test this production, whatever production we got, when we test this into the labs to understand the nutrients value, the most staggering calculations what we got is hydroponic farm has a more nutrient value and traditional farm has more pesticides, herbicides and the heavy metals into them. So the production what we got from the traditional farm has a lot of pesticides contained into it. So it was actually the biggest issue was we are just playing on the boundaries. When we talk about the arsenic, when we talk about the lead, we are just playing on the boundaries. It was fit for the human consumption, but the gap was very narrow. In a hydroponic farm, there was no gap at all. We are not dealing with the lead or arsenic. We were not dealing with heavy metals at all. In traditional farming, actually it was it gives us feeling of some guilt, like okay, whatever production we are sending into the market, it contains heavy metals, it contains pesticides, it contains different kind of herbicides. Even if people are paying premium for this kind of crop, we are doing cash crops in the end. People are paying premium for it. We are not able to provide them high nutrient food. In the end, we are providing them kind of a poison. That was the guilty feeling which we got from the traditional farming. In hydroponic farm, we didn't have that feeling because there was no trace of pesticides, there was no trace of herbicides, there was no high trace of heavy metals. So that was the biggest advantage we got from the hydroponic farm. So when we talk about the automation, so what we understood when we started research for the automation in traditional farming, the biggest technological advantage we got in a traditional farming is we are able to implement a drip irrigation system, and second thing is we are able to switch off and switch on motor using your mobile phone. That was the biggest automation. That's the last stage of automation which we got into traditional farming. In hydroponic, the case was totally different. In hydroponic, we are able to control temperature, we are able to control humidity, we are able to control different aspects like how much pH of water we are maintaining, how much nutrient solutions we are giving, how much fertilizer dosage we are using. We are able to manage entire farm. Like in advance, we can tell, okay, how much workers are working, what is the production rate we have, what is the EBITDA we have, like earnings before tax deductions and everything. We had a lot of control over this data. In traditional farming, we never had this kind of a control. In traditional farming, we are not sure about how much production we're gonna get after 2 days. We didn't have that clear picture, so we are not able to commit to, even if we get orders from the market, we are not able to commit to the person and vendor that how much production we can send it to you on 3 days. We're not sure about what climatic conditions might come. Like, is there any issue with different kind of things we are doing into the traditional farming? In hydroponics, everything was under control. We are able to manage everything. We actually knew what kind of a crop production we are doing, how much production we are gonna get every day, and how much we can send it to the market, how much we're gonna make money on top of it. We are able to project our financials based on that, and we are able to convince our pricing to the vendors. Even if you are charging them high or even if you are charging them low, we are able to convince them, okay, we are able to calculate per plant cost, and we are able to understand, okay, how much this plant is gonna make money for us. What is our EBITDA? EBITDA means what is the earning before tax, deduction, different kind of a thing. So we are able to understand what is our gross margin and what is our net profits on this. So we had all these details when we did the hydroponic farm. In traditional farming, these details were not at all possible for us. Even after doing everything scientifically, even after tracking everything using Excel sheets and running multiple formulas, we are technically not able to calculate or analyze the data in traditional farming. So the automation was not possible in a traditional farming. So let's talk about the location. What advantage we have on the hydroponic farming and the traditional farming. So traditional farming, the location is very much limited to the farm operations. We have to do the traditional farming where the farms are located, where we have a good quality of a soil, where we have a good quality of humus into it. Even if you are using proper kind of a fertilizer or something, what is the fertilizer ratio already present into the land? We have to consider all these things when doing the traditional farming. In hydroponic farming, we had no connection with the land, so we can every time it's a rinse and repeat system. Every time it is a fresh system. So we can do it on a farmland, we can do it on a terrace, we can do it in the closed environment, we can do it into the containers, we can do it wherever we want, however we want. We had a total control over the growing conditions of the crop. We didn't have those leverages when we go to the traditional farming. So traditional farming was very much limited to the farmlands, and the hydroponic farm was, it can be expanded into wherever we want, however we want, and whatever conditions we want. So that was the biggest advantage we had in the hydroponic farming. So when we talk about the climate dependency, in hydroponic farm, you have understood by now, we had a zero climatic dependency. Even it's a raining outside, even if it's a misting outside, even it's a winter outside, or it's a summer outside, inside the polyhouse, we had nothing to worry about. We had a constant supply, we had a constant quality. On traditional farming, we are faced a lot of small issues like, okay, if there is a fog outside, so the plants are turning yellow. If there is not ample of sunlight, the sunlight is not enough, the plants started slowly dying out. The photosynthesis was very slow. We faced a lot of challenges like this. Even if you are using pesticides, if you cannot control that, okay, this is the only row which is pest infested, and we want to use pesticides only on this row. We didn't have that much of a control on the traditional farming. It was spreading to the next regions in the different regions of the farm. We didn't have that kind of a control. So climatically, it was not a proven system. Climatically, it was not controlled, or climatically, we cannot say it was like foolproof, secure system. So traditional farming, we had that kind of issues. In hydroponic farm, we never had those kind of issues. Now let's talk about the quality. Whenever we want to sell this produce to the market, and then where the unit economics is, we did all the production and everything, we want to sell, we want to send our harvest to the market, and market will pay money against them. So whenever we are sending our produce to the market, every time in traditional farming, we have to find different kind of vendors. We cannot sell same basil to the same vendor constantly, because we don't have a constant production. We have a seasonal production. So for example, in winter, if I'm doing the basil production, I'm finding a new vendor for the basil. In rainy season, if I'm doing chili, so I have to find a new vendor for chili. If I'm doing the summer, if I'm doing capsicum or I'm doing the lettuce, I have to find a new vendor for that. So in hydroponic, what happens is, I have a single vendor who needs all year around the basil. I can supply the basil to him. Every time I don't have to find a new vendor. I have a constant quality and I have a constant control over the quality of for an entire year. So finding a single vendor, providing him with a constant quality production was like easily possible into the hydroponic farm, which was not possible into traditional farming. Let's talk about the pest control. So when we built a poly house, so we got a little bit control over the pests. So pest infestation was very less. Soil-borne disease were zero. So that gives us a lot of advantage into hydroponic farming, that we had to use zero pest control mechanism for the hydroponic farming. Yes, we did little bit of a pest control mechanisms, but they were very much traditional. Like we had a trappers, then we had a blue stick bars, we had different kind of pest control mechanisms, but it was not directly connected with the plants anyway. We didn't use single kind of a chemicals, we didn't use single kind of a pesticides on direct plant productions. In traditional farming, we were highly dependent on the pest control. We are dependent on the different kind of a pest control, which are like, it clearly when we are using the pest control for the traditional farming, every time we had a guilt feeling whenever we read poison onto it. Every time we are pushing poisons in the traditional farming just to control the pest. And this poison is going nowhere. It's in the end, it's going into the plant, and ultimately it's going in the human consumption. So we had to use a lot of pesticides to control our production into traditional farming. In hydroponic farm, we never had that guilt feeling. We are like, we're 100% sure whatever we are producing, it's 100% nutritious, and there is not a single trace of a poison into it. So we are so much sure about that. So there was a zero pest control. We are saving a lot of money on pest control as well. We are not spending any money on pesticides. We are not spending any man hours or labor hours on the spraying of pesticides. We are not spending any money on the equipments which we need for the pesticide spraying. We are saving a lot of money on that part as well. So let's talk about the pricing. So now with all this data and farm management software, we could figure out that okay, per plant is costing us 1 rupees 35 paise from its seed phase to the final harvest phase. So now we have a total control on the pricing. In traditional farming, we didn't have a control on the pricing. So each plant we used to cost us more than 12 rupees to 13 rupees for the single plant production. So when we have 1 rupees 35 paise per plant costing, even if I'm selling it, for example, if I'm selling for 100 rupees, per plant is giving me production of 100 rupees in an entire month. If I'm selling for the 100 rupees, here I'm making 100 times more money. In traditional farming, I'm just making like 8 or 9 times money. Because I'm spending 12 rupees on a plant and I'm getting 100 rupees back. Here I'm spending 1 rupees on a plant and I'm getting 100 rupees back. So whatever pricing, even at the market price when I'm dealing, we are getting the premium pricing for the production what we got. Without charging any extra money to the customer or a vendor, we are actually playing on the premium pricing in the hydroponic. In traditional farming, we are just playing on the proper market pricing, and we are not generating that much good revenue and not that much good profits from the traditional farming. So now let's talk about the maintenance. Maintaining a traditional farm is a heavy job. It's literally heavy duty. We have to take care of the weeding, we have to take care of the pest control, we have to take care of the herbicides, we have to take care of the soil-borne diseases, we have to take care of a different mechanism of harvest, we have to take care of a lot of things. So maintaining a traditional farm was much more difficult job. We have to maintain the water flow, we have to maintain the water dependency, electricity dependency, we have to maintain a lot of things in traditional farming. In Kryzen hydroponic farm, we didn't have those kind of dependency. There was no issue of weeds, there was no issue of pesticides, there was no issue of herbicides, there was no issue of fertilizer management, there was no big issue of water management. Making availability of water was not a big issue in a hydroponic farm. So maintenance point of view, hydroponic farm was much more easier to manage and operate when we compare it to the traditional farming. Now let's talk about the ecological effect. When we talk about the ecological effect, we considered mainly 3 aspects. What kind of an ecological effect particular farming is having on the economics of the customer, second thing on the nature, and third thing on the person who's growing the vegetables or the person who's creating this kind of a business or a mechanisms to produce this kind of a vegetables. So let's talk about the consumer. So when we talk about the consumer, we are providing them the high nutrition food, which is much cheaper than the market price. We are using less number of less amount of fertilizer. We are using zero amount of pesticides and herbicides. So overall, it looks greener and it just looks more beneficial from the customer point of view. Now let's talk about the economical or ecological details. Like what are the issues with nature is gonna face with the traditional farming or hydroponic farming. In traditional farming, we use the drip method. So in drip method, there was a non-recovery drip method. So there was a lot of runoff. There was a lot of fertilizer wastage. This fertilizer wastage is going nowhere, but in the end into the land. Slowly, this will go into the drinking zones. It will go into the wells. It will go into the bore wells. And in future, this is the same fertilizer and same water. The people are gonna use it for the consumption of a daily drinking. So that was the issue. Now we got the feeling of we are crucifying the nature into the traditional farming. In hydroponic, we had a control over the fertilizer we are using. okay, there is a runoff in the runoff after 1 month. There is a fertilizer, there was wasted, we had to flush it out, but we're using that fertilizer for the plants, different grown up trees like mangoes and for drumsticks and all. The wastage of fertilizer are very less. I'll not say it's almost zero, but it's a very less comparing to the traditional farming. Now let's go to the third part, where the farmer who's like producing these things. So farmer is exposed to the pesticides, he's exposed to the different kind of chemicals all day around. He's working too hard, he's not able to generate even enough revenue, he's not able to generate any profit, he's highly dependent on the climatic conditions, he's dependent on a lot of things to get his production back, to get his money back, to get his whatever investment he has done to get it back. So from economical point of view, or from the health hazard, or from the health point of view of his family, he's not generating good amount of revenue. Apart from that, generally farmers don't consider that the entire family of farmer is working on the traditional farming to get the benefits of a actual profit which we get from the hydroponic farm. In hydroponic farm, we need just one labor. The job of one labor is to do the harvest. In traditional farm, the entire family is working into the traditional farming. Some people are working into seed side, some people are working into the pesticide, some people are working into the weed side, some people is doing harvest. So entire family is it's concentrated on the traditional farming. Their life is revolving around that particular farm. That makes it zero scalable model. It's not scalable large enough. As soon as you want to scale your farm, you need to increase the members of your family. Then only the traditional farming becomes scalable. So that was not the issue in a hydroponic farm. So ecological effectively we saw, okay, hydroponic farm is having very less damaging effect on the ecology, and traditional farming is having lot more damaging effects on the ecology of a system. Now let's talk about the pollution effect. In hydroponic farm, there is a zero pollution effect because there is a zero carbon footprint. We don't have to run big machines which operates on the diesel or petrol. We don't have to use any tractor, tiller, puller, or different kind of machineries. So we had almost zero carbon footprint running a hydroponic farm. In traditional farming, we had to use a lot of machineries which are dependent on the diesel. We had to do a lot of pollution, in order to produce that vegetables. So the worst part in traditional farming, what we found is, so even if you're using a drip system, a lot of people don't talk about this. The plastic which is used into the agriculture, mostly it is not recyclable. It doesn't get recycled. When farmers use drip irrigation pipes or something, it gets buried into the, after a moment, after time, it gets buried into the farm. This is a plastic, once it goes into the system, it doesn't come back. This is not recyclable plastic. We don't use PDP, a different kind of a plastic into this. So the nature is having a lot of pollutional effects when we are doing a traditional farming. In hydroponic, everything was measured. Everything has a recycle value. We are able to recycle. We are able to maintain it. And nothing was going into the land. Nothing was directly in contact with the nature. So we had almost zero pollution effects into the hydroponic farming. There was a water runoff pollution within traditional farming, at some extent into hydroponic farm as well. But when we compare to that, it was a 95% less than the traditional farming. So these are the all advantages which we found into comparing, while comparing traditional farming and the hydroponic. And we thought, okay, whatever we are doing from the moral point of view, from the economical point of view, from the business point of view, it was suddenly making a lot of more sense to operate a hydroponic farm compared to the traditional farm. The only issue what we were facing was the initial costing, the initial input cost to set up hydroponic farm was considerable. But yeah, when we started doing the business, what we realized is, if I'm planning to buy a 1 acre land to take the same production, I'm gonna end up spending more money than what money I'm going to invest to set up a hydroponic farm. So actually it stopped bothering me when I did this experiment. It stopped bothering me. Initially it was bothering me a lot that, okay, maybe I'm investing a lot more money in setting up the hydroponic farm. I can directly choose the path of a traditional farming. But after doing this experiment, it gave me the clear idea, okay, even the initial cost is not that high enough for the same amount of production or the revenue or the gross margin or the net profit I'm gonna get in back. So this is the comparison between the traditional farming and the hydroponic farming. We did this comparison at Satara, at our own farm. We own both farms. The traditional farming method we did on our own farm. Earlier we had the production of a sugarcane there. So maybe I'm just clarifying few declarations here that maybe the fertilizer uses what we had was a little bit higher on that side because of we are doing the single crops. That was one issue. Second thing was we are using third workers because we took little liberty to get the good quality production. We should sell. It is possible with the less labors as well. With 2 labors or 1 labor, traditional farming was possible. That is a thing. We didn't use the poly house for the protection agriculture because we didn't wanted to invest a lot of money for the experiment. That's why we never invested for the poly house. So this number would have changed little bit if we would have done like different kind of a land, if you would have used the less number of workers, and if we have gone with the polyhouse farming. So apart from that, all these comparisons were like poles apart. The benefits which you got from the hydroponics were much more higher than the traditional farming. Now let's talk about the plants we can grow into the hydroponics. So once we did this experiment, the next issue what we are facing is, in traditional agriculture all crops are possible, different kind of crops, whether they are edible or non-edible, even like cotton, something kind of which are non-edible crops, that was possible into traditional agriculture. When we talk about hydroponic, the variety of crops which we can do, that was the next staggering big issue we are going to face. So when we did research, we understood there is more than 2500 plants which we can grow into hydroponics, which are very much possible cash crops, which can, for example, there is a basil, there is a anise, there is a catnip, there is a chervil. You can see the list on your screen. I'm just reading from my screen. There is a chive, cilantro, coriander, fennel. We can do oregano, mint. We can do cabbage, spinach, lettuce. We can do tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, green peppers. We can do broccoli. We can do sugar snap, green onion, carrots, strawberries. Okay, for some plants like carrot and something, we need a different method. We are not able to do it with the Nfp method. We have to go with a different hydroponic method to produce this carrot and all. But we are able to do all greeny, green leafy vegetables. So it's summers that we can do more than 2500 crop production into hydroponics. So we are not losing big time on what are the crops we can produce. We are not limited for the crop production. Yeah, obviously we cannot do turmeric, we cannot do carrots, obviously we cannot do a lot of plants which are like potatoes, we cannot do a lot of plants like cotton, we cannot do grains, we cannot do rice. These plants we cannot do. But apart from that, a lot of like 2500 plants can be done into hydroponics, and I think from business point of view it gives a lot of a good scope to grow as a business. We are limited for the plants, but yeah, these plants are the very high cash crops, and the market is very much demanding market for these crops. Other crops which you're talking about, potato, carrots and something, a lot of people are already doing it, and the market is kind of a settled market, and there is not a lot of scope of a growth there. So apart from that, we didn't face any major issues when we talk about the kind of a crop production we are doing into hydroponic and the traditional farming. So now the next important part is the inert media. So till now we talk about the theoretical part. So whatever the theories we use, whatever the comparisons we found, what are the things which we understood from the research or something. Now let's come to the core setup. We'll talk about the main thing, inert media. There are a lot of inert medias available into the market. What we should use? So generally what we found is there are 8 different hydroponic grow medium which are widely used. There is a Rockwool cubes, then there is a ossis cubes, there is a hydroton clay balls or expanded clay balls, or also known as ECP. Then there is a perlite, there is a vermiculite, then there is a coco peat, there is a rocks, and there is a charcoal. So sometimes people use charcoal with coco peat because charcoal has a quality where it can hold water for a longer period. It can retain water for the longer period. That's why people use coco peat mixed with a charcoal. That's what we found. But charcoal can be also used as a separate hydroponic grow medium. So let's talk one by one. Let's talk about the Voracle cubes. Rockwool cubes, what we found is it's very costly to use. Rockwool cubes has a lot of input cost involved into them, so we never used Rockwool cubes. So we use ossis cubes for the basil production. Ossis cubes cost much lesser compared to Rockwool cubes or expanded clay pellets. The issue with ossis cube is ossis cube are not reusable. Once you have used ossis cube, its lifespan is over. You can use it only once. It's a one-time use. Expanded clay pellets, it's a very costly affair. It costs very high, but okay, they can be used for 4 to 5 years very much easily. The quality of expanded clay pellets is, expanded clay pellets can be used into EBB and flow. It can be used into NFT method. Inside the net cups, they consume nutrients and the water from water, and they makes it available for the root plants. So root plants are always moist. Ossis cube does the same job. Ossis cube does this job much better than the expanded clay pellets. Then there is a perlite. Again, perlite is a very costly affair. Okay, so when we talk about the perlite or when we talk about the vermiculite, so what we found is vermiculite and perlite is a very much costlier affair. If you're doing commercial production of a hydroponic, never pick perlite or a vermiculite. We don't get a lot of advantage over ossis cube or a coco peat or expanded clay pellets when you go perlite and the vermiculite. So we have used coco peat. We use coco peat for the lettuce. We use coco peat for the different plants. So we used ossis cubes and the coco peat. I'll talk the differences about that. We'll talk about the rocks. There are some rocks which we can use for the crop production. Generally, rocks are used when you are using flood system, EBB and flood system. When you're giving the nutrient solutions directly to the roots, and rock is doing only single job holding up the plant at the place. Then the rocks is used. Charcoal is used directly or it is used with the mix of coco peat. So let's talk about the ossis cubes and the coco peat. When we used coco peat and when we used ossis cubes. So the coco peat is much more cheaper than the ossis cube. The issue with coco peat is, if you're using the coco peat for the long time, slowly it's gonna get loosen up and it's gonna get mixed into the water. It will not directly dissolve into the water, it will get mixed into the water, and you have to use external filter to keep on filtering out the coco peat from the system. So we use coco peat when we are going for the short term crops like 30 days crops like lettuce. We are going for the broccoli, that kind of crops, we use coco peat. When we are going the large lifespan crops like a basil, or we are going for the morjam, or we are going for the oregano, we used ossis cubes, because that time ossis cubes makes more sense because it provides proper moisture zone for the roots for the longer period compared to the coco peat. Coco peat just provide the initial root security for the plants when they are into tray phase. Once we transfer them into the Nfp system pipes, coco peat starts getting loosened up and it gets mixed into the system. Again, we have to filter them out and get it out of the system. So operating on a coco peat becomes a little bit tedious after time. Ossis cubes is like messy free job. You don't have to, it doesn't mess up with your actual system. It doesn't mess up with your pH or EC of the system. It doesn't mess up with the filtration of water. It doesn't mess up with a lot of things. So even if ossis cube is little bit costlier than the coco peat, ossis cubes makes more sense when it comes to the management of the farm. So that's why we completely shifted from coco peat to the ossis cubes. Initially we started with the coco peat. There was a phase when we used coco peat on ossis cubes together. Now is a phase when we use only ossis cubes for our production. We use zero amount of a coco peat. So now the next important part is the seedlings. When we talk about the seedlings, we talk about different things. Like a lot of people, when they start their hydroponic journey or even a traditional farming journey or agricultural journey, the first failure when the reality strikes, it's at the seedling phase. Now let's talk about the seedlings in details. What exactly is seedlings? Like why it is different than the actual agriculture? I emphasize on this, seedlings is actually different than the traditional or any kind of agriculture. This amount of attention seedlings need, or the amount of nutrients or a type of a nutrient seedlings need, is totally different. The climatic condition seedlings need is totally different than the agriculture which we do in general. So let's talk about the seedlings. On your screen you can see there is a tray, and you can also see there is a plant which is coming out of a seed. So whenever we talk about the seed consists of mainly three parts. The first part is the whatever micronutrients or nutrients the plant need for the initial days. That's part of a seed. Second thing, the actual plant which can grow and which can become a plant or a tree in future. That actual plant that is covered into the seed. And the third important part is the storage capacity. Seeds have their outer storage capacity where it can be stored for a longer period, and by providing little bit heat and little bit humidity, you can start the process of germination. So every seed consists of this part. First part is a nutrient, which is a nutrient required for the plant for initial growth. Second, actual plant. And third, the storage container or storage capacity or storage outer layer of the seed. These are the three things which seeds are made up of. So whenever we talk about the germination, whenever we want to do the initial germination, we use pro tray or general trays which are used. So we use 100 pocket trays which are easily available on an India Mart, or you can buy it on a Flipkart, Amazon, you can buy it on a Just Dial, you can find a vendors for that. So we use a plain pro tray to germinate a seeds from the seeds to create a initial plants. So this is the method which we followed to germinate a seed. First we took the empty tray. We made sure we are not reusing the tray. Whenever we are reusing the tray, we made sure that they're properly washed or properly, generally avoid reusing of the tray. Every time we try to use a new tray, even if you are reusing the tray, we properly wash them before using, because there might be attack of a fungicides or fungus after a period of time when seedlings are growing. So because of that reason, because generally when we water seedlings, the tray remain in the humid container or humid zone for the longer period. So there is high chances of fungus formation on the trees. So every time if you are using the tray, wash it or make sure that it's a new tray, and make sure it's not damaged tray. Every time try to use non-damaged trays. Now second phase what we do is we press coco peat into the trays. When we add all coco peat into the tray, on top of that, we add seeds into the tray. Whenever we are adding the seeds into the tray, we make sure the seed goes 1 centimeter deep inside the coco peat. When seed goes deep inside the coco peat, again we refill the tray with a second layer of a coco peat. Once second layer of coco peat is done, this tray is completely done. The seed sowing part is done. Now what we do is we pile the trays on top of each other. We try to do 15 to 20 trays pile up on each other. So this is generally used to create a humid environment, a little warm environment for seeds to grow very rapidly. Sometimes you can do the same method with a closed container, but generally piling up trays on top of each other does a very good job. If you are doing commercial production, covering them inside the container and maintaining the humidity and temperature becomes a little bit tedious. So the simplest method is just pile up trays on each other. We water the tray properly, and once the tray's watering is done, we cover the tray. We cover the tray for the first 3 days. So we avoid any kind of a sunlight to it. So we make the complete humid condition, and we rise the temperature a little bit by covering the trays for 3 days. After 3 days, we start seeing a small seedlings growth. We start seeing new plants have started coming out of a seed phase. So that's the phase when we start spreading our trays thin enough. We introduce a mild sunlight to the trays where the plants from the seed phase, they start developing into the seedling phase. So this is the process which we follow to convert seeds to the seedlings. So there are some mistakes which generally people do while creating the seedlings. So the first mistake a lot of people do is they take a smaller trays. So avoid doing smaller trays. If you're doing commercial production, avoid doing smaller trays. Take a big trays. No. Root formation for the plants is a very much crucial in the seedling phase. So always make sure that you are using bigger trays. Avoid smaller trays. Second thing a lot of people do is they don't press seed deep inside. Always make sure your seeds are at least 1 centimeter deep inside your coco peat. That's a mistake you should avoid at all cost. Third mistake a lot of people do is people don't use bottom holes. There are two types of trays available into the market. There are trays with the bottom holes and there are trays without the bottom hole. So always you have to use the trays which have a bottom holes. Whenever there is excess water, the excess water should run out. If a lot of excess water is there, a lot of root rotting will start happening into the seedling phase. Seeds will not germinate properly. The seedlings will not grow properly. So always make sure there is a bottom holes to the trays. The fourth important part is never use dry coco peat. Always use moist coco peat when you are filling up the tray. Always make sure your coco peat is moist enough that the root zone, what the plants or seedlings root zone is always moist. You have to make sure of that. So never use dry coco peat at any phase, even if you are filling the trays or even if you are watering the trays. At any stage, never coco peat dry. Never let coco peat dry. So the fifth important tray is improper way of piling up the tray. Every time you have to pile up a tray on top of each other, that each pocket comes on top of another pocket. So that's the only proper way of piling up a tray. So even if you are watering tray from the top on the day 1, so the all water passes to the next and keeps on passing to the next layer of the trays. So always pile up tray very much properly. Sixth important point is giving high nutrients to the seedlings. So whenever we spread, after 3rd day, whenever we spread these trays on the mild sunlight area, you should not immediately start giving them a high nutrient dose. You cannot start giving them like 20 grams or 30 grams or 50 grams or 1 kg of nutrient solutions to each tray. We cannot do that. That's not required. The plants will start burning. The seedlings will start burning because directly you are putting synthetic chemicals on them. They are not yet capable or coped up with the synthetic chemicals. So never give high nutrient solutions to the seedling. A lot of people have this confusion that if I'm giving them more fertilizer, they'll grow very rapidly. It doesn't work that way. Seedlings doesn't work that way. They keep on growing at their own pace, on their own speed. They just need nutrients to help that support. They just need support to do the different operations in their growth phase. Sometimes they have to develop their stemata. Sometimes they have to increase their photosynthesis speed. Sometimes they need to gain the stem strength. They need different mechanisms. They need nutrients. The growth needs nutrients. It's not nutrients which boost growth. It doesn't work that way. To growth boost, there is a different kind of a growth booster. The nutrients or fertilizers doesn't work in that manner. So always avoid giving high nutrient solutions to the plants when they are into the seedling phase. The seventh biggest issue what people do is we put a lot of seeds into the single pocket. So always make sure there is only single seed into the single pocket. When seed is growing into the seedling phase, the root will start growing in all directions. It will start fighting for the nutrient solution. It will start fighting for again it's a life form. So in life form, always try to find a lot of things which is possible. So when we have multiple seeds in the pocket, the seeds start fighting with each other for the similar amount of nutrient solutions which we had. So avoid doing multiple seed sowing into the single pocket, or just make sure that you are sowing only single seed into the single pocket. Now the next phase, what we talk about the nutrients for the seedlings. So when we talk about the nutrients for seedlings, generally what we have understood is, if we have broken them into the 3 steps. There is a stage 1, then there is stage 2, and there is a stage 3. So first stage is like 0 to 7 days. First 7 days, in that 7 days we have covered the first 3 days when we pile up the trays as well. So from 0 to 7 days, first 3 days there is a no water requirement, there is a no nutrient requirement as such. After 3rd days, we start introducing water to the seedlings. Already the small sprouting has already done, the seedling phase is already started. So for first 7 days, whatever nutrients this particular seedlings need, it's already available inside the seed. You don't have to give any additional nutrients from external side. You don't have to give any additional NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, or any micronutrients is not required from outer area. Whatever nutrients the particular seedlings required, it is already present into the seed. It will consume all the nutrients which is available into the seed. And this is the period, this is the phase when seeds actually remove the outer cover, which is the protection container the seeds have. It removes the protection container, it comes out of the container and actually exposed to the different kind of gases in the environment. It's exposed to the oxygen, it's exposed to the carbon dioxide, it's exposed to the hydrogen, it's exposed to the carbon, it's exposed to the different kind of elements and gases which are available into the climate or in atmosphere. So this time we don't have to give any particular nutrients to the seedlings. Now comes the second phase. In second phase, which starts from the day 8. So now here what we start doing is, we follow 2 to 1 ratio. In first 2 days, we give the normal water to seedlings. On 3rd day, we start giving the nutrient solution to them. The nutrient solution, what formula we used here is, we give NPK 19-19-19 and the ratio is 70 grams for 20 liter water. So 20 liter, the general spraying pump which we get is a 20 liter pump. Sometimes we get 15 liter pumps. Generally go with a 20 liter pumps. Easy to operate, easy to manage. It is easy to manage nutrients and all. So we use 70 grams of NPK 19-19-19 for 20 liters of a pump, and we give this nutrient solution on day 3rd. So after that day 3rd, day 4 and day 5th again normal water. Day 6 again nutrient. Day 7, day 8 normal water. Day 9 again nutrient, again day 10 normal water, day 11 normal water, day 12 nutrient water. So this is the ratio which we follow till 30 day. Till day 30 we follow the same example, the same set of a repetitive process for the nutrient solutions which we are providing to the plants. So after day 17 we start introducing to the top-up nutrients. So why do we need top-up nutrients? This is the phase where seedling is properly grown. We start seeing the true leaves of the seedlings. So this time on day 3rd, when we are making the 70 grams of a NPK 19-19-19, we add 10 grams of a micronutrients into it. So we give 70 grams of a NPK 19-19-19 and we add 10 grams of a micronutrients into the same solution. The process remains same. First day normal water, second day normal water, 3rd day nutrient water. The process remains same. On 3rd day we start giving them the top nutrients. So the top nutrients are like, there is a ferrous, then there is a zinc, then there is a copper, then there is a molybdenum. Different kind of things start doing different jobs. Some micronutrients start boosting up the photosynthesis process. Some micronutrients help them to get them like a silicate and a zinc. They actually give strength to the stem of a plant. They start doing different jobs. But this starts from the day 17th, not before day 17th. Up to day 16, just NPK 19-19-19. From day 17, it's NPK 19-19-19 plus 10 grams of micronutrients. So this is the nutrient which we provide to the seedlings. If you are repeating this process, if you are following this process, your seedlings will grow very properly. Okay. Apart from that, there is a lot of people ask me this particular issue is, what is the sunlight ratio we have to maintain? So for first 3 days, there is a zero sunlight, absolutely zero sunlight. Your trays remains into the dark. From day 3rd, we introduce them to the mild sunlight. The sunlight is a very mild. From day 17th, we introduce them to the little bit high sunlight, because after day 30, we have to introduce these plants to the hydroponic, where they're going to be exposed completely to the sunlight. So from day 17 up to day 16, we create a small nursery where we keep all these trays and something. From day 17, we take all these trays and we push them into the our polyhouse system. So slowly they're exposed to the sunlight. After they're exposed to the sunlight, the plants start adjusting to the sunlight. So this is the ratio you have to follow. From 0 to 3 days, no sunlight. From day 3rd to day 16th, you give them mild sunlight or a shaded zone. From day 17 to day 30, we expose them to the polyhouse environment or a climatic condition environment where they're gonna grow bigger. So this is the climatic conditions we have to follow for the seedlings. This is a nutrient solution we have to follow for the seedlings, and you will see great growth into the seedlings. Okay, a lot of people ask me this: what is the ratio of a seedling death? So generally consider this 10 to 15% is a seedling death. So if you're planning for, let's say, 100 seedlings, 100 plants to grow, so always plant 115 seedlings. So always consider there is a 10 to 15% death into the seedlings in this phase. On top of that, there is a 10% death when we transfer the seedlings into the hydroponic. So that's called a hydroponic shock. So always, whenever you are planting any seedlings, always plant 20% more than what you're gonna harvest in the end. If you are targeting 100 crop of harvest, always plant 120 seedlings. So always make sure that you have 20% excess seedlings or excess seeds to be planted in a seedling phase. So always remember this whenever you are doing the commercial production of the plant. So let's talk about the nitrogen in detail. When we talk about the nitrogen in detail, what protein does into the animal, the same thing nitrogen does for the plant. It gives them the stem strength. The plant stem is very strong. It gives the leafy green strength, like a lot of stemata starts happening, a lot of photosynthesis process start happening with the help of a nitrogen. So you see much more greener plant when you are using the nitrogen. So let's talk about the phosphorus. So when we talk about the phosphorus actually strengthens the root system. When we are using, like, we are doing crops like a potato, we are doing like crops like radishes, or we are doing the crops which need a very strong root system. The phosphorus is the key element for that. So whenever using phosphorus, we have to make sure of that. So when we use NPK 19, we make sure the phosphorus at the same quantity, in which quantity nitrogen and the potassium is available. So generally phosphorus does is it increases the root system, it increases the disease resistance, it increases the it improves the flowering and the blooming part, and it actually gives strength to the tissues and the flavors into the plant production. So this is the importance of a phosphorus into the system. Now let's talk about the potassium. Potassium is also important for the root and the seed production, and potassium is the actual element which keeps on pushing plant to the maturity. So potassium keeps on pushing plants to the maturity. It makes sure that it adjusts to the climatic condition, adjusts to the temperature. It goes into the flowering phase and ultimately goes into the fruiting phase as quickly as possible. That is the job of potassium. So in seedling phase, we have to make sure that we have a nitrogen which gives the photosynthesis process a boost up. We have a phosphorus which gives boost up to the root management or root systems of the plant, and we have potassium which keeps on pushing plants to the ultimate growth or ultimate maturity. So these are the three nutrients requirement for the seedlings, and we have to keep on focusing on this nutrient requirement. That's why we use NPK 19 throughout the period of a nutrient development, seedlings development. So these are the key elements. We'll talk about the next part, which is the water. Water is the most crucial part in the hydroponic system. So generally when we talk about the water, since my early days when I was a kid, I always had this one question in my mind was, why do we need water for the agriculture, for any kind of agriculture, whether it's hydroponic, aquaponics, or no, for a drinking purpose or for the agriculture purpose, for all the reasons, why do we even need water? When I grew up, so I understood why do we need water. So the basic basic reason why do we need water is, water is a very good solvent. So generally we know water is H2O. It has 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen molecules. The bond between oxygen and hydrogen is not that strong bond. In chemical terms we call that covalent and different things, but for the layman's language, it's not a very strong bond. So other elements or other minerals can immediately, or without a lot of efforts or something, they can get attached to the water. So mixing fertilizer or mixing any nutrient solutions is much more easier to dissolve into the water than compared to any other liquid. So we can dissolve fertilizers easily into the water. At the same time, the bond is so weak, so whenever plants need any fertilizer or any nutrients or any ionic elements from the water, they can immediately or easily extract it from the water without damaging the chemical compositions of the water. So that's a very basic reason why we need water for the agriculture purposes. So fertilizer can be easily mixed into the water, and plants can easily absorb these nutrient solutions from the water. So apart from that, so whenever plants is absorbing nutrients, they absorb water as well. So when we talk about the basic formula of mass cannot be created. Mass always, if plants are taking water as a mass element, and then they are doing photosynthesis process, they're converting carbon dioxide into the oxygen, then forming the glucose. So mass is the main criteria. Water is the main criteria to generate that mass to grow plants in a different phases. They can create leaves out of it, they can create stems out of it. That's why water plays a very much crucial role when we are developing the plants, or they're going into the maturity phase. So when we talk about water into hydroponic systems, we ideally deal with two situations of the water. The first situation is pH of the water, and second situation is EC of the water. Now we will talk about the pH of the water. So when we talk about the pH of water, it's nothing but the potential hydrogen ion activity. So a lot of people have this confusion is like whenever we are giving nutrient solution, when we are adding nutrient solution into the water, how plants are taking it. Either plants are taking it into the same granular or a salt format. Like if plants want nutrients, does it goes into the water and search for the nitrogen element and it start absorbing the nitrogen? No, it doesn't work that way. So whenever we are adding any fertilizer into the water, they form different kind of ions. So based on that, the pH of the different ions is formed. The same way, hydrogen has its own ion activity. Either it's a negative or it's a positive. They have their own ion activities into the water. So counting that potential hydrogen ion activity gives us idea about what is the pH of the water. So generally when we talk about the pH scale starts from 0 and it goes up to range 14. So let's talk about 0 scale. When we talk about the battery liquid, or when we talk about like highest acidic waters like lemon or something, that's a 0H scale or 0 or 1 scale. So opposite of that, when we talk about the alkaline water, when bleach is there, or a drain cleaner is there, or a soap is there, that's a alkaline water. There is a lot of alkalinity into the water. So that is on the scale of 13 and 14. So when we grow plants into the water, what we have to do is we have to make sure that this ion activity is at the proper range where all these nutrient solutions are available for plants root to uptake whenever they want. So we have to maintain water which is little bit acidic, acidic side from the neutral scale. So we maintain acidic pH like 5.5 to 6.5 is a maintainable pH range which we need to make sure that all nutrient solution and all fertilizers and elements are available into the water are easily consumable by the plant's root. So maintaining 5.5 to 6.5 EC is a pH is a very much crucial for the plant growth. So next comes the pH meter. We talk about the pH meter. So pH meter is actually used to understand like what is the current pH of the water and what stages or what things we have to do to keep it under the control. So generally when we stay in India we get whatever water we are getting, that's little bit on the alkaline side. So there is a lot of a salt deposit or a what we call a lot of minerals and chemicals are already present into the water. So whatever water we are getting, that's little bit on alkaline side. The general water, drinking water, any water we have, that's almost on 6.5 to 7.5, sometimes 8 pH is available. Generally we have to reduce that pH. Generally we have to get it back in the range of 5.5 to 6.5. So we make use of acid. So generally acid is used to bring down the pH of a water. So in our farm we use phosphoric acid for this purpose. We can use nitric acid, we can use sulfuric acid, we can use phosphoric acid. These are the three acids which can be used to bring down the pH of a water. So generally what we have understood is nitric acid and sulfuric acid is little bit more costlier when compared to the phosphoric acid. Phosphoric acid is much more cheaper. That is one part. Second part is a phosphoric acid. Managing a phosphoric acid is much more easier. In nitric acid, the shoot up is a very high. For example, if I'm diluting the sulfuric acid into the water, I have to make sure that the proper pH is achieved. I have to make sure the proper circulation is happen. Sulfuric and same issues with the sulfuric acid. When you talk about the phosphoric acid, that issue is not there. Managing phosphoric acid is much more easier. Phosphoric acid is much more cheaper, and agriculture, food grade phosphoric acid is easily available at any part of India. So I suggest to go ahead with the phosphoric acid. We are using the phosphoric acid. You can start with the phosphoric acid. There's a different kind of a pH, pH grow, pH up and pH down are available. Generally they are very much costlier and technically you don't need them. You can directly go ahead with the phosphoric acid and it delivers the same results which you want. So now let's talk about the EC of water. When we talk about the EC of water, EC is nothing but the electric conductivity of the water. So in the layman terms, The proper water, the base water, the H2O water, which is like pure water, it's not electrically conductible. It doesn't conduct the electricity properly. But it doesn't have ions into it. It has the hydrogen ions, but they are not that much negatively charged or positively charged to conduct electricity on their own at a very fast pace. So whenever we add in impurities into it, the impurities can be salt. The impurities, when I say salt, I mean fertilizers. Whenever you add fertilizers like NPK, like nitrogen, phosphorus, whenever you add micronutrients like ferrous, zinc, so they becomes impurity into the water. As soon as the impurity is added into the water, now the ionic acceleration into the water is automatically increased. There is a lot of ions present into the water, so water can be charged. It can be charged positive or it can be charged negative. The electric conductivity passing from the water becomes very much easier. So now whenever we calculate this electric conductivity, at what speed current is passing from the water, tells us about how much impurity is into the water. So this impurities is nothing but the presence of fertilizers into the water. So whenever we want to consider like how many fertilizers are present into the water, we talk about the electric conductivity. What is the electric conductivity do we have into the water? That electric conductivity can be converted into the ppm, that is particles per million. So we can convert that into ppm to understand how much fertilizers are available into the watter. So generally 1 EC is 640 ppm. So when we say okay, the EC of water is 1, then we understand okay, there are 640 ppm. 640 ppm is available into the water, particles per million part is available into the water. So getting the EC value tells us exactly how much fertilizers are present into the water. Based on that, we can increase or decrease the dosage of the fertilizers we want to give it to the plant. If you want to maintain the, let's say, ppm of 700, if you are going for the lettuce plant, we have to maintain the ppm of 700. So we know that we have to maintain the EC of 1.2. So we're gonna add mother stock into the water up to the extent that we get the EC of 1.2. If I am going for the cherry tomato, I have to maintain the ppm of like 1200 ppm. So that time I have to make sure that okay, my EC is 2.1. So I'm gonna add the mother stock solution into the irrigation water up to the extent that when I get the EC of 2. So that's how we manage how much dosage of fertilizer we need to add into the irrigation water with the help of a EC of a water. So generally we get the EC meter to understand what is the EC of water. So EC meter works very easily. We have to dip the EC meter into the water, and immediately it gives us the values into EC, and sometimes it gives the values into the ppm. Understanding those values makes our job easier to understand how much dosage of fertilizer do we need to add into the water. So these are the two crucial qualities of the water we have to maintain while running the hydroponic farm: the pH of the water and the EC of the water. So remember in the last time when I said that when you are using drip irrigation method, so the maintenance of the EC or maintenance of the pH becomes very much difficult because a lot of nutrients are added is used by the plants, and there is very little flow of fertilizer into the runoff collector. So maintaining the EC becomes very much difficult into the drip irrigation system, and it's much more easier into Nfp systems. So that's how we use EC and pH of water to maintain a very healthy farm, and we make sure that every plants get whatever nutrient solutions or whatever nutrient elements they want to grow very rapidly at a very normal pace, where we can have a proper harvesting cycles and we can generate good amount of revenue from it. Now let's talk about the most important part. The 12th part is the nutrient solution. So when we talk about the nutrient solution, we talk about mainly two things. One is what nutrients we are giving to them, and the nutrients are either macronutrients or the micronutrients. So we have to understand these are two types of nutrients. Either they are macro elements or they are micro elements. So when we talk about macro elements, the elements which we need into the large quantity, for example nitrogen, phosphorus or potassium, calcium, magnesium or sulfate. We need sulfur. All this we need into the large quantity. They go in commercial farming. They goes into cages. We keep them into cages like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. This go into like 5 kg, 4 kg, 2 kgs. Apart from that, then there is a micro elements. Micro elements are like plants need them at the very minute quantity. So they goes into the grams, sometimes into the milligrams. Like boron. Boron goes into the milligrams. Molybdenum, it goes into the milligrams. Ferrous goes into the grams. Zinc goes into the grams. I'm talking about the commercial farm. I'm talking about the 13,000 head production farm. For 5,000 square feet, we need manganese like 2 grams. So 2 grams manganese is enough to run a 5,000 square feet farm, to run 13,000 head production. This much manganese is enough. When I talk about the ferrous, 70 grams ferrous is good enough to run a 5,000 square feet farm. So micro elements we need at a very small quantity. So we don't invest a lot of money into micro elements, and plant doesn't need micro elements for their growth boosting. Plants need micro elements only for two things. First thing, either survive from the disease or the pest. Second thing, to stimulate the growth patterns, like if they want to increase the photosynthesis process or they want to increase the root development. For all this, as a growth booster at a very small quantities, they need micro elements. So whenever we talk about nutrient solutions, we have to understand, do we need we are talking about macro elements or we are talking about micro elements. A lot of people get this confusion. Okay, if I should give everything into the equal quantity. No, it doesn't work that way. Plants need different elements at the different quantity. So as we spoke in the last part, that we need nitrogen whenever we want the leafy growth of the plants. That time we need a high nitrogen. So whenever we want like high root development, that time we need potassium. That time we need phosphorus. Same like micronutrients, we need ferrous whenever we want like greenery in the leaves. We want to increase or boost the photosynthesis process. That time we need ferrous, but we need ferrous at the very small quantity there. We don't need ferrous into kgs for quantity. We need into some micrograms ferrous per plant. So that's how we should able to control that, how much macro element and how much micro element do we need to maintain while running the farm operations. So now let's talk about what is nutrient solution, why to prepare the nutrient solution, how to use the nutrient solution. So maybe whenever you have tried learning about the hydroponic nutrient solution, you would have understood, okay, there are two types of nutrients. Either there is a tank A or there is a tank B. A lot of people are confused about it, what's tank A and what is tank B and how it is exactly connected to the hydroponic system and why do we even need it. So let's take a one step back approach to this. So whenever we take fertilizers from the local market or local shop, or we are buying from the online, whenever we are getting fertilizers, we get fertilizers into the dry salt format or a dry granular format. So this fertilizers, plants, we cannot expose plants directly to this granular format. We cannot take the NPK in the bucket and we cannot dip plant into that NPK. Plant won't be able to take that fertilizer for the growth. Plants will die. So what we have to make sure is, we have to make sure that this fertilizer is completely diluted into the water. That goes into the ionic formation phase. The ion formation is happened. Now they are dissolved into the water at the ppm level, like particle level. They are dissolved into the water. Now these ions are consumed by the plants by their roots. So this is the flow we have to maintain. So when we try to dilute this fertilizer, mix these fertilizers into the water, we face a second big issue. When chemicals, different kind of chemicals, when they come in contact with each other, they form different chemical reactions. The same issue happens with the nitrate and sulfate. When your nitrate based chemicals and sulfate based chemicals, they come together, they form different kind of a salt and it deposits into the water at the bottom. What happens? We lose a lot of money on the fertilizers. If it's not getting dissolved into the water, plants are not able to take it. To solve that problem, what we do is, we create a tank A for the nitrate based solutions and we create tank B for the sulfate based solution. Whatever the nitrate based solutions we have, they go into tank A. Whatever sulfate based solutions we have, they go into tank B. And micro elements are added into tank B or tank A. That's up to your choice. You can add them into anything. We generally at our farm, we add them into the tank B solutions. So this is the formula for the tank A formation and tank B formation. So let's talk about the irrigation water. Before understanding irrigation water, what we have to understand is, we have to create a concentrated nutrient solution of tank A and concentrated nutrient solution of tank B, and this concentrated solution goes into the irrigation water. So we procure nutrient solution from the market. Once we procure the nutrient solution from the market, we create tank A and tank B from that. Once tank A and tank B is formed, this tank A and tank B goes into the irrigation water. So this is the flow, this is a formula we have to follow to create a irrigation water. Now let's discuss about the irrigation water. As you can see on the screen, we have a central tank which is the irrigation water tank. We have a tank A solution and we have a tank B solution. In tank A solution, we have calcium nitrate, we have potassium nitrate, and we have ferrous EDTA. Ferrous EDTA is chelated ferrous, which is available for the plant to direct consumption. Then we have a B solution. In B solution, we have magnesium sulfide, we have monopotassium phosphate, and we have potassium sulfate, and then we have microelements. So here you can see there is a clear differentiation between the nitrate based fertilizers and the sulfate based fertilizers. So that's why we create tank A solution and we create tank B solution, and this solution, this mother stock, goes into the irrigation water based upon how much ppm we want to achieve. If I'm taking the latest production, I have to target like 700 ppm. So from A solution, B solution, the equal quantity will be taken into the irrigation water until I reach the 700 ppm capacity. Same way, if I'm going for the cherry tomato, I have to target 1200 ppm. So fertilizer solution from A tank and B tank will be taken equally until I reach 1200 ppm capacity of the irrigation water. So that's how the irrigation water is prepared for the hydroponic system. Now let's talk about the commercial viability of the farm. Now the plants, we have created the seedlings, we have passed seedlings into the hydroponic farm, we have created the irrigation water. The irrigation water is being flowed into the system. Now plants are going properly. Now as soon as we hit day 30, our plants are matured enough to sell into the market. So when we talk about the commercial viability, we have to understand mainly two parts here. So commercial viability with traditional farming and commercial viability with a hydroponic farm works simultaneously and same time works oppositely. So when we say simultaneously is how much demand we have from the market, it's equal for the traditional farm and the hydroponic. How much rate market is ready to pay, we call that WTP, that is willingness to pay from the consumer side, that is constant for the hydroponic and the traditional farming. A lot of people say this, okay, if I'm growing hydroponically I should get the premium. Trust me, you should not go in that dimension. Never think in the dimension. The way you are growing your vegetable has nothing to do with the end consumer. End consumer is paying you for the produce, not for the way of your producing it. End consumer is paying for the, if you are producing high nutrient, very good looking and the high quality food, he's ready to pay for that. But he's not bothered about what method you are using to produce it. So just because you should get higher or premium price because you are growing into hydroponically, never trust that. Never trust that. Even if someone is telling you to sell their kit or something, that you will get the premium pricing, never trust that. In actual ground level market, it doesn't work that way. In actual ground level market, consumer is ready to pay for the product and not how it's done, how it is made, how it is produced. Consumer is not ready to pay for that part. So that is constant for the both agricultural method. Now what is differentiator is initial cost, input cost and the revenue mechanism is different for the commercial viability. As we saw the comparison in the traditional farming and the hydroponic farming is input cost is a little bit high for the hydroponic farming, but operational cost is very much minimum and the revenue margins are very high for the hydroponic farm. In traditional farming, input cost is a very high, buying a land is a very costly affair, operation cost is again a higher affair, the revenue is a very less when you talk about the traditional farming. So commercial viabilities can be easily achieved with a hydroponic farm because maybe you're investing more money, but comparing to traditional farming, it's equivalent or so money. Operation cost is a very low. Running our hydroponic farm 5000 square feet, we are spending approximately 10,000 rupees per month. I'll give you the costing breakdown how it works is. So we generally spend 2000 rupees per seeds. We spend around 1700 rupees for the electricity. We spend around 7000 rupees for the labor. We spend 500 rupees for the packaging. And whatever the top of amount we have is generally goes for the maintenance. Sometimes we have a key failure. Sometimes we have to do small tweaks. Sometimes net cups break down. All these things. Sometimes we have to do modification to the inert media, all these things. So generally this amount goes into the 10,000 rupees range per month. I'm taking production of a 13,600 heads. So when I talk about 13,600 head production, let's remove that 600. Let's say that 600 is a damage. Either they are transportation damage or no, they are damage while the harvesting or uneven growth. We have that that ratio will be there always there. No one can deny that it's universally understood given ratio. Obviously you have to lose that 600 rupees. So let's talk about the 13,000. We have 13,000 head production, and when I say okay, I'm selling it to the local market, I have a 10,000 rupees a monthly recurring cost to me, and I'm taking production of a cabbage. So cabbage per head, if I'm selling at the cheap dirt price like 8 rupees. So let's say 10 rupees just to make the calculation very much clear. So whenever I'm saying I'm selling per head production for the 10 rupees, still I'm making 1,30,000 rupees as the revenue. I'm not talking about the net profit, I'm talking about the revenue. On top of that, let's lose another 10,000 rupees for the transportation, different damages and all. I'm making 1,20,000 rupees net revenue at the lowest market segment. I'm talking about 10 rupees per head. That's a dirt cheap. Cabbage is it doesn't goes below that. So even I'm selling at the dirt cheap rate, I'm another 10,000 rupees is operation cost. I'm still making 1 lakh rupees profit. It's a net profit I have just by selling cabbage from the hydroponic farm. So that's what that's the scale of economy we get when we are going into the hydroponic farm. When I say, okay, I have invested 12 lakh rupees for the initial farm development, within a 1 year, I can achieve my ROI. Whatever investment I have done, that's return. And from the next year, I'm profitable. I'm talking about the dirt cheap price. If I'm going for the basil, which goes at the 200 or 250 rupees kg, I can achieve my ROI into 4 to 5 months. If I'm going for the more costlier plants from that, like Brahmi or Shankapushpi, that's a more costlier affair than that. I can achieve my ROI into 2.5 or 3 months. So that's very much possible, by experimenting with a different kind of a crops. By keeping your operation cost minimized, you can immediately achieve your ROIs in a hydroponic farm, which is not possible into traditional farming. That's the biggest advantage I found on a hydroponic farm. And this is how commercial viability can be easily achieved with the hydroponic farm. So now let's talk about the sales channel. As I talk in the agenda, we have three types of a sales channel available to us. We have a B2B, we have B2B2C, and we have a B2C. So personally, I have worked into B2B and I have worked into B2B2C. I have never worked into B2C because of different reasons. Managing B2C orders are very much tedious and very much difficult. Managing orders into B2B and B2B2C are much easier. Scaling is a very much easier task when you talk about B2B or B2B2C. So when we talk about B2B, what exactly we talk about? We talk about business to business market. We are directly selling our goods to the businesses and then businesses taking care of it. Either we are selling it to the cloud kitchens, or we are selling it to the food processing companies, or we are selling it to the hotels, or we are selling it to the institutions or exporters. We are sending our deliveries at the bulk rate, at the bulk quantities. I'm sending like 70 kilos of basil every day to any hotel or any institute or any, let's say, food processing company. Managing that is much easier for me. So when I talk about B2B2C, we are selling it to some reseller or a malls or any e-commerce, generic e-commerce platform like Big Basket, or I'm selling it to the malls like say Food Bazaar or say Spencer. If I'm selling it to the supermarkets like Mo Supermarket or Reliance Fresh Supermarket, again managing that B2B2C is much more easier than B2C. It's a little bit difficult than B2B because there is a different kind of a things comes into the picture when we talk about the payment cycles or the credit lines, the credit periods, a lot of things, the packaging materials, different things comes into the picture, but it's much more cheaper than the B2C, much more easier to manage in the B2C. In B2C, you have to set up your own shop, you have to set up your own e-commerce website, or you have to set up your own e-commerce app. You can go Android or iOS, that's totally up to your choice. You have to decide your app, or you have to do the counter sale in the societies or the corporates, or you have to do the set up a simple counter setup into the APMC markets or the market yards, and you can start selling it to the consumers directly. That's a B2C approach. Managing B2C is very much tedious, very much labor intensive, and there is a lot of chances of damages and loss and different things comes into the picture in B2C. Yeah, profit margins are very much higher into B2C compared to B2B. In B2B, profit margins are much lesser, but when B2B is all game of quantity game. B2C is all game of a quality game. You don't push a lot of quantities, you push a lot of quality and get money against that. In B2B, you push a lot of quantities, not very high quality, but you get a lot of money in that. So if you're planning commercial phase, commercial farming and something, B2B or B2B2C is the way forward. In B2C, generally, I'll suggest don't go into that hassles now. Once you are grown enough here, when you have market presence is strong enough, then you should think about B2C, not before that. So this is all about the hydroponic. So we have talked about like what is hydroponic, why you should do the hydroponic. We talked about inert media, the irrigation waters, fertilizer, seedling phase. We talked about everything. So this is all about the basic concepts of the hydroponic. Now let's understand if you want to go about advanced hydroponic. Now, for example, you have made up your mind that okay, I want to understand about the commercial hydroponic, or I want to go detail into the economics of the hydroponics. I want to understand about like how to set up your commercial farm or something. Let's talk about that now. So as I told you, when 3 years back, when I started doing research on the commercial hydroponic farm, I met a lot of companies. A lot of companies promised me a lot of things. But the only issue was the input cost, the initial cost is very high. Some companies were quoting me 35 lakhs, some were quoting 50 lakhs, some were quoting 65 lakhs. Different companies were giving me different quotations. So that was the biggest frictional point I have to get into the industry. I was not able to get into the industry because obviously I didn't have a 60 lakh rupees waiting in my bank, or no bank was ready to give me loan of a 30 or 40 lakh rupees on any unproven business model. So that was not the case for me at all. So I had to devise a system where my input cost is very low. So I started working on that part. So while I was working on that part, I realized one thing, that like me, there are a lot of people who want to jump into hydroponic, but they are held back because of this initial traction, initial input cost. So from day one, I decided, okay, I document each and everything. Whatever processes I did, whatever methods I followed, whatever techniques I used to minimize our cost, I started documenting each and everything. So after 1 year, when everything was going smooth, a lot of people started visiting me. I started showing them the clips. That this is the clips which I have shooted. This is the things like this is the land leveling method I used, or this is the fertilizers I used. This is the method of Nfp systems I'm using. These are the changes I did. This is the timer methods I've used. I started showing them different things. So a lot of people used to tell me, okay, can you send me all these videos? Can you upload it on a YouTube? So I started uploading them on a YouTube, small pieces. I started sending them on a WhatsApp. Then people started having a lot of questions about that. Okay, why this is done this way? Why you did this? Why this change you have done? People started asking a lot of questions. Managing those questions, everything was become a tedious job for me. So after a moment, again, I'm into the business of selling vegetables for the profit. I'm for the profit business. So I decided, okay, let's build a course around this. From day 1, whatever I did till day 40, how I set up my plant. Apart from that, what is a basic hydroponic, what is advanced hydroponic, what are the methods, what are the techniques we have to use, why hydroponic is designed such a way, why we have designed our farm in such a way. I went ahead from that. If you're going for the bank loan, what are the things we have to do? If you're going for the NBFCs, what are the things for you to do? All these things, I created one giant course of that. Whatever softwares I have developed a farm management software, I developed a price voucher software, I developed different kind of softwares, water quantity requirement softwares, fertilizer softwares. We created different softwares for our own use. We decided, okay, we'll give these softwares to the people. Like if they want to succeed into hydroponic business, they need all this tool set, they need all these arms in their hand when they want to succeed into the market. So we decided, let's give them everything. Let's empower them with all these tools and softwares and techniques and methods we have followed, we have created. We started giving them to everyone. And we created a course. We named it Hydroponic Masterclass. So Hydroponic Masterclass is a groundbreaking course which teaches you to set up your hydroponic farm, which is 70% cheaper than the market options which are available right now, and that generates up to 4 lakh rupees per month, and you can finish the entire course in just 3 days. So we created a course in such a way that it's a fast track, but same time it's not very laggy course. You can finish the entire course into 3 days, and it can generate revenue up to 4 lakh rupees by setting up the farm of 5,000 square feet, and it is 70% cheaper than whatever options available into the market. So generally a lot of people want to jump into the hydroponic immediately. Some people are still into the planning phase. They still want to understand, okay, what is a land leveling or a land development or a water development I have to do, what are the main concepts, like, okay, what is the wind speed I should have if I'm setting up the poly house. That's small issues which actually can make or break the business. So a lot of people have like a lot of questions when they're doing the paperwork. So they want to understand, okay, what are the ROI I should target? What are the crop production I should do? What is the input cost? What is the labor cost? Like if, okay, some person is coming on my farm to set up my polyhouse, how many days he gonna stay there? And if he's gonna stay there, what are the other facilities I have to provide him? What food I have to provide him? How much cost is gonna in that? Okay, do I have to see that how far my hospital is, or how far the water resource I have? So calculate all these things. So we created the blueprint of business. So the blueprint of business is like accurate way of being successful into the hydroponic business. So you need to calculate from each and every step. Okay, if I have a paved road, how far it is. So if I have a paved road which is like 200 or 300 meters away from my farm, how much that additional cost I'm gonna have in the labor to transport my materials from the road to my farm locations. So calculating all minute details and something that actually makes the business, that actually makes sure that, okay, what is the ROI we're going to target, what is going to be our EBITDA, what is going to be our earnings before tax deductions and everything, what is going to be our gross revenue, and what is going to be our net profit. So when we get all these configurations and all these details in our hand, before even we go away from your computer and start actually thinking and working about the hydroponic farm, we need all these details into our hand before starting into any business. So the same details, we created all details and we created one document out of it. So on your screen you can see the farm development videos. So on this you can see that there is a proper breakdown of our videos. There is day 1 when we did the land leveling. There is a day 2 when we created the water resources, how to get the water resources to the farm locations. Day when we started constructing the polyhouse, we are going with the F bracket polyhouse. Why we are going with the F bracket polyhouse? Because it provides us 6.5 meters center height. So we can go up to 7 or 8 layer height in the production, in the vertical farming. So that's why we went to the F bracket system. In market, if someone is giving me much cheaper poly house, let's say 20% cheaper, 20% the cost of polyhouse, maybe he's not going with the F bracket, he's going with a different bracket, which is not, I'm not able to go much vertical with that methods. So you have to understand, not all polyhouse are the same. Not all polyhouse micron paper is the same. We have to go with the 400 micron paper, not with 100 micron paper. There is two regions where we have to save money and where we have to spend money. So we need a clear differentiator where we have to save money and where we have to compromise on the quantity. So that differentiator is done. So in videos you'll understand, okay, how the pipes are connected with each other. You'll understand, okay, when I start doing the seedling phase, when we transfer seedlings into the pipe, after transferring seedlings into the pipe, when we should expect our first harvest, how to package the harvest, how to send it to the market, how to expect, like, what are the credit lines to provide, what if I'm doing contract with any particular company, what are the clauses I have to take care in consideration. Okay, if I'm going for the bank loan, if I'm going with the PSOs or national bank, what are the condition I should be checking upon. If I'm going with the NBFCs, they have a different set of clauses. What are the clauses I need to check upon. If I want to add any clause, how to approach them. If I want to remove any clause, how to approach them, how to take care of all parts. So we created the entire course on top of this. So this course is not particularly science driven course. So we have covered like 80% science into the course, but the course is morely driven on the economic side. How to become a successful business person into the hydroponic. How to commercially how to achieve the commercial success into the hydroponic. The course is based on that. So when we talk about the free things, like the basic tools which you need to succeed into the hydroponic business, you need farm management software. If you go into the open market, the farm management software cost into ₹1,00,000. We made it available for the free. If you want to go for the future price prediction algorithm, so we call it the price watcher. Now in advance, after 1 month or 2 months, which commodity is going to give you the highest ROI, the highest return on your investment. You should know that well in advance. So we discuss about the price watcher. We made that price watcher available for you, free of cost. So now when you're growing your hydroponic journey, you need a lot of people who are in the similar journey. So we created a private Facebook community where people can interact with each other. We created a private Facebook groups where whatever issues you're facing, maybe some other person has faced similar kind of issues, which are very much location specific. Maybe from Satara, I cannot exactly tell what are the location specific issues you are facing into Himachal Pradesh or with the your humidity. But there might be some other person who is doing the same farm, same operation at your location. He might have faced the same issue and he already found the solution. He can immediately pass the solution to you. So that kind of a community space we are trying to build. So apart from that, that's all theoretical part. So you need to see the operational farm, how exactly the operations are working, how exactly harvest is done, how exactly seedlings are created. So you are welcome to our farm. You can come down to our farm as many times you want. You can come to our farm. So you can stay here. You can understand the small bits and pieces of the farm. How to create a farm like from the granular level information is given at the farm level. You can visit our farm anytime. Right now we don't have this facility, but in future we are working where you can visit your partner's farm. Different people have already developed the farm. You can visit their farms to understand what things they are doing. So we are trying to create the economy here, a community here where everyone is benefited, a mutually beneficial community. We are trying to develop that. So apart from that, whenever you want to pursue this as a business, a lot of people might want to go with the bank loan or the NBFC loan. They need a certificate. So whenever we talk about the certificate, so we have a pre-approved e-verified certificate with us. We have registered the private limited company and we have achieved the complete financial benefit from the aid. So whenever we are working with the banks or something like HDFC Bank or something, they have seen our track record. So they know this is a properly proved, verified business which is generating proper revenues. So when we give a certificate, we are giving certificate on the name of Chrysler Biotech Private Limited, which is successfully driven business, hydroponic business. So the certificate can be e-verified. Whenever they want, they can e-verify the certificate. And when the certificate is not given by some courses or some classes which is running into AC chamber, into some co-working space. This certificate is given by the proper company which is generating revenue from the business, and they're giving the certificate for that particular business. We are not generating revenue from other business and giving certificate for the other business. We're generating revenue from the hydroponics, and we are proving that hydroponic, if this person has completed the course, he knows about hydroponics, and there is a highly chance that this person is going to be successful into the hydroponic journey. So we added a lot of weightage to the certificate here. So when we talk about this course, so more than 17,000 people have already taken the course. We have 4.7 star ratings in the course. Obviously, there are some people, they don't like our course. Obviously, we cannot satisfy everyone at every stage. So, but more than 17,000 people and maintaining 4.7 star rating is a pretty good task. We take very much pride into it. A lot of people don't talk about us on Facebook. They talk about on Instagram and different medias and different channels. People, we are getting customer love from all the side. Every person who's a member of our course is very much happy that he's not only learning about the hydroponics, he's getting his chance to explore hydroponics. He's getting all his tools to learn about the hydroponics in much more detail. So if you're interested into learning advanced hydroponic, what you should do, what you should expect, and how to achieve the proper ROIs, this is the course for you. On your screen you can see the link where you can directly click and you can subscribe to the advanced hydroponic or hydroponic masterclass. So we are very much sure about what values we are providing to you, and you're gonna be completely benefited from it. So we are giving you 7-day money back policy. We are so much sure about what we have created. It is gonna add so much value to you. We have a 7 days money back policy. At any point you think this business is not for you, or at any point you think we are not able to provide you the good amount of value for your money, you can just write us an email at support@hydroponicmasterclass.com. We give you 100% refund. No, there is no deduction. We don't deduct money for the payment gateway charges and different things. We give you 100% refund. We bear all the cost because we couldn't provide you the value you expected from us. We give you 100% refund. We are 100% dedicated for this hydroponic, that this hydroponic journey should be much more beneficial for you. So you have a one-time payment and you have a lifetime access. We don't want you to sell course. We want you to be a part of community. We want you to have a lifetime support, lifetime access to this details. We are adding a lot of things into the course. The hydroponic journey, it's already started for us. 3 years back we started this journey. This journey is going to be very big for us. We're going to do a lot of learnings. We're going to do a lot of findings. A lot of community people are doing a lot of learnings and they're doing a lot of findings. So we are adding them into the course. So we want you to have access to those learnings all the lifetime. So we have a lifetime access. We have lifetime support. Not only when you're creating the farm, when you're operating the farm, you have support from our end. When you're selling the farm, you're scaling up your farm, you have support from us. So we have a lifetime access and lifetime support from us. So don't waste any time. If you really want to start your hydroponic journey, this is the ultimate course you have to do. This is the final course in the hydroponic. After that, I don't think you need any other course or any other learning. You don't even have to watch any other YouTube video, or you don't have to go to any consultant to understand about any bits or pieces of the hydroponics. So I thank you guys. Thank you for attending today. It was a very lovely session. Let's see you inside into Hydroponic Masterclass. If you want to talk to us, you can chat on our website. You can give us a call at 9870-424-425, or you can write to us at support@hydroponicmasterclass.com. Thank you guys. Have a good day ahead.